Good morning, everybody. Awesome episode for you today. Before we get into the episode, though, let's talk about the brand that makes this podcast possible. That's right, Black Rifle Coffee. Let's go to their website right now, see what they have to offer. Looks like they are highlighting their Join the Club subscription. It's their coffee subscription. Two choices. This one, which I'll call the traditional one, or the ECS, Evans Coffee subscription. Evans is a little bit more bespoke, if you will. 1 bag per month. And he has a heavy hand in determining what that's going to be. This, though, coffee subscription is actually how I get my coffee every month. You can order what you want to be delivered where you want, when you want to. And it looks like you get 20% off when you start a new subscription using the code COFFEE20. Scrolling down, you can look through all of the beans from light to darkest for your coffee subscription if you would want to. And then I talked about many times is apparel, gear that you can make coffee with or drink it out of. Bundles, which is a great, and actually right next to it, this coffee sampler, a great way to expose people to the brand because maybe they don't know much about it. So send them a sample and see if they like it. And that's it on the business side of the house for today. My guest today is Jimmy Watson. If you follow me on social media, a month ago, maybe, I don't even remember when it was. It was a little while ago. I was asked on the Patrick Bet David podcast my reaction to a video from Sean Strickland talking about essentially challenging any SEAL to come to one of his fight camps for a week. Jimmy made a response to that video, and when I was on the PBD podcast, he pulled it up and asked me what I thought. I got over my skis and what I should have said, and realized I needed to make an apology for it. So I did. And I think people believe that when something like that happens, oh, that's it. I guess they're going to be mortal enemies. There's nothing that can be done about it. But instead, what we ended up doing was communicating back and forth and lining up an ability to sit across the table from each other to discuss similarities, differences, and everything in between. And we actually, I think, talked about it for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. The rest of it is a pretty amazing story of who Jimmy is, from his time growing up to time in the Marine Corps, then going over to Blackwater, then coming into the SEAL community, his involvement with John McAfee, and then everything that has happened since then. So it's a good episode. It's a fantastic episode. It's episode number 334 with Jimmy Watson. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. You're cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
Dude, I have the best opening discussion point ever. You ready for this?
Dude, I want the full whammy.
Okay.
I'm down, brother.
I have heard that there is a T-shirt that said, I got my dick stuck in a belt grinder, and all I got out of this was a T-shirt.
No, it's true, man. It's true, and it's the most...
Pull that thing close to your face.
Okay. Are we on live?
We're good. That's the opener.
Okay. Yeah.
Small community, as you know. I crossed paths with a mutual friend of ours. I'll tell you who it is off air, just because I don't know if I'm supposed to publicly say who told me that story.
Are we off air right now?
No, we're on.
Okay, let's go on there.
Well, it's not live anyway, so it's like we can edit whatever
yeah.
out. But he goes, dude, you have to ask him about the belt sander or grinder. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Bro, it's no joke.
He had a copy of the picture of you wearing that shirt.
I literally, it's the most disgusting shirt you've ever seen in your life. It's got a male penis on there.
Yeah. Well, the backstory I have to hear because obviously there's an origin story of where that shirt came from.
Yeah.
And a doctor asking you which kind of like diameter it was, and I believe your answer was, does it fucking matter?
Yeah. I was like, what is this, a friggin' McDonald's drive-thru? Because, dude, people go to the emergency room, and you know how bad it is when you refuse to go to the you refuse to walk inside the emergency room. So basically, I was in Hawaii. Matt Leathers had died in the SEALs, an SCV, or they were looking for him. It was the largest search
underwater. It was
okay. Basically underwater, yeah. And so he was lost out at sea, and they don't know what happened. They don't know if a big shark got him.
How did he get out of the SDV?
It was in the middle of the day. they were doing SDV training out there in the water, off the coast, in maybe 40-foot water. 40-foot water in the middle of the day.
Aren't you mostly in the SDV?
You're always outside of the SDV doing stuff.
Okay.
You're either doing combat swimmer missions to and from the SDV.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Not to talk too much about it,
Yeah,
but
it's
you
an
know what I
insertion
mean.
platform. Yeah.
It's an insertion platform. The little black sub. And so they had the little black sub parked a little ways away, and they were all out there. The last thing that Matt Leathers said, and I mean, Matt Leathers was one hard dude, like ranked right under Goggins in ultra marathons, was drinking like a bottle of vodka at night, sleeping on the team guy couch, hard as nails, looked like a homeless man with a dip in. I mean, dude, we can laugh now because the guy was the hardest dude I've ever known in my life. And so if it happened to him, it can happen to anybody, right? And so...
And the ocean is unforgiving, man. People do not give it the credit it deserves.
People have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I tell people all the time, don't go out and hold your breath in shallow water, the pool. You're going to die. It's no joke. Like you should never even trust your buddy unless you have a qualified swim buddy with you, right? And so they were all out there that day in the water, and the last thing that Matt Leathers said was he was like, "Damn, my weight belt's heavy." That was it. My weight belt's heavy. And so the last thing they know, they find the weight belt on the bottom of the ocean. And it's crystal clear from the top down.
Okay.
And so they find this weight belt on the bottom of the ocean, but no Matt Leathers. Zero sign of him. Zero. Which is extremely odd. Not really a current going on. They're like, what happened? Did a great white shark just blast him out of nowhere? A tiger shark? Or did he pass out because... one of the first things you do when you're free diving or you're about to pass out is dump the gear, dump the load.
You think you'd find him on the surface, though, especially if he was in a wetsuit of any kind. You think he'd be buoyant.
Well, exactly, but he was a bit heavy, and that's what he said before he went missing. And so they find his weight belt, which makes sense. He was probably ascending and dropped his belt, and then they find that. Oh, that was my sister platoon. And so we find out everybody goes out searching.
Yeah.
Eddie would go, was a term they used for a Hawaiian guy that was a surfer, a famous Hawaiian, much respect out to him, who was lost out at sea. It was a larger search than that search for Eddie. They started saying Matt would go because they said Eddie would go.
Yeah.
And so they searched and searched. And during this search, going back to the penis in the belt center.
Oh, of course. We have to come full circle.
We're going full circle. This is not me deviating. This is not me deviating from the penis in the belt center story. Golly, I can't believe this story's out now because everybody asks me.
I mean, it's a small community.
Yeah, it's a super small. I've been in fights over this, Andy. I have literally been in fights. I was in a Denny's, and another SEAL was like, I know we're building a lot of suspense now, but I was in a Denny's.
It's better, though, anyway.
Yeah.
We'll tell side quest stories along the way.
Yeah. I was in a Denny's, and a SEAL was like, I got my thigh caught in a belt sander, and I dang near went to blows with this guy because it's highly offensive when you had your entire penis caught in a belt sander for a long time, and some other guy tries to relate his little story from the peanut gallery that his thigh was caught in the belt or nipped in the belt sander.
I'm worried now people are going to think that SEALs are not trained in how to use general construction equipment. Because we have a data point of 2 people with their belt sanders kicking their ass.
I have literally got more hate mail than any other SEAL, I think.
Okay, so the search is going on, and you needed to sharpen a knife, or
the search is going on, so I decided to grab the belt sander. No, so the search is going on with Matt Leathers, right? And so the search has been extended. They have SDVs out there looking for him.
Yeah.
There's a massive shelf, though. A shelf that goes off like 1,000 feet. I don't remember how deep, but really, really deep, right? They're searching other islands now. They're checking the drifts, the currents. They're mapping everything out. They're checking the shores of the other islands, the big island, trying to find him. And there's no sign of him whatsoever. And so While they're doing this, I always liked art. I always painted pictures, portraits, and stuff. And when there wasn't a coffin to slam the trident in, when there was nothing there to put a body in, we started figuring out that he's probably not going to be found. He probably somehow died. Maybe he went off that shelf and just stayed super dense and rolled off. And so I started to make a big memorial board for him and his family, so they would have something, because the funeral was going to be fairly quick, the memorial, so we could stick our tridents in there. And it turned out pretty well. However, before it was completed, I'm out there in my little Daisy Dukes, my little UDTs.
The term relayed to me was Ranger panties.
They were Ranger panties. I was trying to be cool. Okay, they weren't even UDTs. I was a Marine. And
people can Google Ranger panties on their own. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, Ranger panties. This podcast is just going south real quick.
I love it.
Okay, me too. So I was asked every single day for several years, every day, "Hey man, you the dude that got your penis caught at Bell Center?" I'd be like, "Yes, it's me. Let's move on. Come on, let's move on." And so I was out there in my Ranger panties, and in the middle of the day at like high noon, I have an extension cord on this belt sander, and it's leading all the way out of the garage. Okay, and I have the big piece of pallet board about waist high, and I'm going back and forth with the sander. I'm going back and forth like this with the sander,
just planing it down,
and the sucker grabs the Ranger panties. The point of this story is, don't freaking do construction in Ranger panties.
I agree. That is the point of the story.
Don't open the oven door and cook bacon naked. It's just like, it's something terrible is going to happen, man. Oh, man. What a terrible day it was.
So it grabs a hold, gets stuck in there.
It grabs a hold, yeah.
What's the emergency procedure for this?
The emergency procedure is, as we're trained, Andy, don't freak out, don't panic, no matter what.
Some things are hard not to freak out about.
Yeah, and what was worse than that was there was two kids over here, and a mom and dad, and they're unloading groceries out of they're unloading groceries. Great coffee, by the way. Unloading their groceries out of this car. Okay, and here I am with a belt with my entire junk. I'm talking just like Laffy Taffy went up, and a piece of paper is hard to. These things are hard to load.
Yeah,
just a piece of, and it doesn't say much about me, right?
Tight tolerances,
super tight. But it was. I'm telling you, if a mouse can go under a door crack or any crack, it's like Laffy Taffy. It went through, and it clamped down, and it was like out the other side almost. People don't realize it can stretch a long ways before it comes off.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing's clamped down on me, and the only thing I can think of is like, take your finger off the trigger immediately.
Yeah, remove power.
Finger straighten off the trigger. I am not going to get a weapon safety violation at this point, because if I would have touched it one more time, it would have just flew off.
So then you got a whole different problem.
Yeah, and the reason why I don't think it ripped it off was because it was like, what do you call it? 8 grit. It was like rocks.
Okay.
It was the rocky sandpaper. It was like the lowest grit, like 8.
How'd you get it out?
Okay. And so all I can do is it's clamped down on my penis, and I look over, and all I can do is I don't know if it's more embarrassing or I don't want the kids to have PTSD for the rest of their life. And so they never saw it. They're this close. They're like right there on the other house. They continue to unload their groceries the entire time, and so I go in the garage. I'm holding it like this with one hand because it's so heavy, and I close the garage door like that. I start to look at it, and my first reaction is like a fox when he gets his arm caught in a trap, a bear trap, is to pull as hard as you can. It's just survival. You don't even care if it comes off at that point because you just want it off of your body. It's weird. And so I pull it, as hard as I can. And I remember it just stretched like Laffy Taffy.
For people only listening to this, I'm actually crying. I'm laughing so hard.
Man, I flew all the way to Montana for this.
You got to admit, it's the perfect opener.
It's a perfect opener. It is. All I got was this T-shirt, you know. And so I pull it as hard as I can, and it's like Laffy Taffy. It just stretches out. I'm shocked how far it can stretch because it's not that big, Andy. You know. So it's stretching out, and so I'm just like it's totally defeating me because I'm like. It doesn't come off with probably 2 solid pulls. And so I'm thinking, okay, and I went and unplugged the extension cord, took it off, and then I looked at it, man, and my little dog was in the corner just staring at me like a real weirdo.
What type of dog?
I call him Tookie. He's a little miniature red pinscher.
Okay.
And he's just staring at me. And he's like, this is
what are you up to, Dad?
Well, he's more like, this is what you get for waterboarding me. all those times, you know? And I'm like, hey, bygones be bygones. Go get your mommy immediately. Like he's Lassie, and he's just staring at me like I don't know, like he's probably waiting to chew on my scrotum thing that comes off. I don't know. It's that kind of crazy situation. So I look at it, and I start evaluating it now because I have to remain calm because I don't feel tremendous pain yet. I'm just kind of like total shock, right? And so, but I calmed. I calm my mind, breathe, calm, and I look at it and I think, okay, I'm going to go get the screwdriver, and I'm going to start taking the entire thing apart.
Yep.
Right. But then, as I'm going to get the screwdriver, because remember, I'm having to hold it, and it's super hot, like a frying pan.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Burning because I've been doing this for hours. I've been planing and planing for hours or for a long time. And so I look at it and I go to get the screwdriver, and then I realize, oh my God, I just can release the catch release.
Oh, to take the tension off of the paper.
Yep. Exactly. To take the tension off the paper. And so when I do that, I start to just pull inch by inch by inch by inch. Okay. All right.
Several feet.
5 or 6 freaking feet came out of that thing, Andy. You're like, Jesus, guy. All right. Okay. It wasn't much to pull out. But I pulled it, and then it just came out.
And then did the pain start?
No, not yet. Not yet. It was almost unrecognizable.
That checks out.
Yeah. And then it was black.
No pun intended.
No. It wasn't black before. Trust me, it's not. But I have told SEALs, if they don't watch out, I'm pretty quick. I'm like, hey, your penis will never get caught in a belt center. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they're like, all right. No. So I go inside. My wife is standing. My ex-wife is standing there, and she's making cupcakes for like the FRG, with the bun in her hair, perfect little wife. And I say, Leah, and I'm sure she probably doesn't like me mentioning her name here, but I'm like, Leah, I'm like, I just caught my penis in a belt sander. And she said, oh my God, I'll go grab some ice. And I said, hold the freaking patrol. I said, this is way more serious than ice.
Let's get the car going.
Get the freaking car going. This is not even ambulance status. This is not flight for life. If you're in that much trouble, you get your butt in the car and drive to the. Why are you going to call 911
and wait for them to come get you to take you to the place,
and then have to explain? And they're laughing at you on mute.
I mean, I have been laughing at you, and I'm like right across the table because, dude, it's fucking awesome.
Okay.
In hindsight,
it's okay. So, no, it was kind of funny the whole time. I don't know why. I even sent a picture of it to my chief, and he said, "Get your ass into the command. You've been drinking, I see. So come see me when you get here." Like he thought I was joking. He refused to respond to me after that. I was like trying to tell my chief. I was trying to be a good SEAL. Yeah. And so I said, get your butt in the car and take me to the emergency room. This is a serious situation. And she said it looked like a black burnt pancake. That's what it looked like.
I don't know if anybody ever wants to hear those terms associated with their junk.
No, you don't.
No, you want to be like Thor's hammer,
No.
fucking wiffle ball bat, something like that. Not flat burnt black pancake.
Flat burnt pancake. And so she drives me to the hospital, a tripler, Army tripler in Hawaii, and I can't get out of the car. Like I'm sitting there, and now my hands start to shake.
Yeah, shock.
And I'm like, and I'm looking down, and I keep feeling it. I keep feeling it, and it's just it feels like there's just a bunch of knots in it, and it's hard. It's crinched up. Something's wrong, brother. Because in your mind you keep going. Like you fall down and you like maybe have broke your leg, but you try to walk it off. Yeah. You're like, no, that didn't happen. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. No. And no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. So people may think I'm a little weird, but I'm like, hey man, did you get your penis caught in a belt center? Shut up. You know?
Unless they have some context or an experience to bounce this up against. I mean, we're really in unknown territory here.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I have PTSD about the war? No. Do I have PTSD about the penis? Yes. So leave me alone. Pay me. And so pay me. And so I go. So I tell her, I say, go get the doctor. I'm not going in the hospital. And so I'm surprised because usually they don't play that game.
I actually didn't know that was even an option.
I didn't either. But I said, no, tell him I'm dead serious in my crazy eyes. I said, tell him to come out here. So like a McDonald's drive-through, he comes out, or in and out. He walks up to the door. He's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, I got my penis caught in a belt center. And he goes, oh, sorry. And I'm like, what? Is this fun? I said, is this funny, man? And he's like, no. He goes, I'm sorry. I just, I need to ask a question. He says, was it an 8x37 or a 13x6? He said two numbers. Okay. And I'm like, bro, does it matter? And he's like, well, it's just interesting to me because it happens, it's happened before here. And I'm like, what do you mean it's happened before? I was like, so this actually happens? And so we're in this, we're starting to go into a philosophical conversation, and I'm like, just need help bad.
Yeah.
But I'm like interested. I'm like, this happens before? He's like, yeah, so it's interesting which one it is. And I'm like, get me in the surgery room.
This guy's doing a fucking medical poll while you're sitting in the passenger seat of a vehicle. What do they end up doing for it? I mean, what can you do? Do you just let it heal?
No, major surgery.
Oh, no shit.
We're talking the sex change surgeon has to come in. Dr. Nuss, the specialist. Really? Yeah. A urethroplasty surgeon has to operate on me now.
Holy fuck. Like ASAP?
Not ASAP. They first want to see, there's a process to everything. So they have to.
And this is a military hospital?
Military hospital.
Oh, Lord.
And so they say they have to put a catheter in this black burnt pancake. And I'm like, you're not touching me, man. I mean, I'll die, I guess. I was like, I'll die. Like, you're not going to put a catheter.
I'll die.
I will freaking die. And he's like, we have to put a catheter in or you will die. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to die then because you're not going to touch me. Because I said, where are you going to put the catheter? Like, where? And where? What?
It's going to be an exploration, and it's not going to feel good is how they're going to do that.
Yeah. And they told me, and they said, don't worry, we're going to give you some, 5 milligrams of morphine. I said, you better triple whatever you just said. And I'll never forget, he said, okay, give him 10 milligrams of morphine, damn it. And the nurse came over. I'll never forget, she whispered in my ear, she goes, don't worry, I'm going to give you a lot more. And I'm just like, what kind of place is this? What's going on here? But I was like, thank you.
Military hospital.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's ether. I was like, thank you. And so I told my wife to leave the room.
Yeah.
Another guy comes in the room and says, I have to give you a prostate exam. And so on top of the complete shameful humiliation of Jimmy Watson, now somebody comes in and basically blasts me
Yeah.
from behind for this prostate exam. And I'm just like, what was that for? And he's just like, oh, it's just something we do before the catheter. And I'm just like, but I mean, why? Like, why? Why? How did this happen to me?
Why are these two things
I was
connected?
trying to do something good for this country.
Yeah.
And now I'm, getting, all these different things done to me. And so they managed to get this catheter in me. And it was pretty brutal.
I bet.
It was pretty bad. And then I am flown out to, they see how bad it is. They don't know the extent. So I'm flown to Dallas, Texas.
No shit.
Yeah, because they can't do this.
Yeah, that's true. That's going to be a specialist for sure.
It's a urethroplasty where they have to route. They call it a router, and they basically the guy was enamored by SEALs. The doctor.
I don't know if that's good or bad though.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
because he kept talking about Navy SEAL movies with Charlie Sheen and how he was watching with his girlfriend the night before.
It is a classic. Let's be honest.
It was a beautiful movie, and
he was a beautiful man at that time as well.
What a great guy,
Have you ever gone back and watched it though from like a critical tactical lens, like?
I think you could, you having jumped so much, I think you could probably appreciate the bridge part. Could you do that, Andy?
I mean, first off, I thought that bridge, when I was watching that, because I viewed that as a documentary before I joined, it's one of the first few pieces of true beta I could get. I assumed that was in Coronado, which it's not. If you try that on the Coronado Bridge, as you know, you're fucking dead, because that's hundreds of feet. I think that's somewhere in Virginia Beach. At a certain altitude, I would do it. Beyond that, it's like, no.
At a certain altitude, I would jump off that car?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty
like
ballsy,
40, 50 feet. Like anything more, I mean, water.
What about a jump? Like a base jump type thing?
100% I would.
You would do it?
Yes. How could you not?
Because you have a tremendous amount of jumps.
Yes. I haven't base jumped in a long time, but... if somebody was like, hey, I have a card, you can jump out of it over one of these bridges, I'd be like, well, let me go find my shit.
That would excite you.
I don't know if it would excite me. It would be interesting.
So it wouldn't even, at this point, it wouldn't even excite you. You wouldn't even get like a rush out of it, maybe?
Base jumping scared me every time that I did it. And that is something that people have a hard time understanding. Like, if it scared you, then why'd you do it? And it actually, there is an adrenaline rush, I guess a little bit when you're first starting, but that actually faded for me really rapidly. I just enjoyed it, and I actually used it as a mechanism to like erase all the other bullshit in my life that was invading my thoughts. You know what I mean? That moment, like, because you're zipping up in a wingsuit standing on like a couple 1,000-foot cliff in Switzerland, like you are not thinking about your mortgage payment. You're not thinking about the argument you might have had with your ex-wife, or you're just like, I'm going to try to live for the next 2 seconds.
Do you ever worry that it would lead into just more risky behavior?
Yes. I tried to be very cognizant. One of the things about base jumping, it's like a lot of things, it gets romanticized, and people want to talk about the extreme nature of it, and some people want to define themselves by the extreme nature of it. I was always very clear, like, this is a wood chipper. It will spit people out in configurations that you can't recognize anymore. And if I ever got to the place where I wasn't terrified, I was going to walk away. Because to me, that meant that I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're supposed to be scared. If
You
you're
have
not
to be,
scared,
right?
yeah. Like, it's totally silent except for your heart, which you're pretty sure, like, animals a half mile away can hear. Because it's just like,
Yeah.
If it's not like that, I think you're a sociopath.
Yeah.
And you should probably move on.
I think that's one. I've heard a statistic that team guys, or you could say special operations guys, older guys generally get injured or even killed a lot of times rather than the new guys. And you would think it would be maybe the opposite. But
yeah, because you'd think the new guys with the lack of experience would get themselves into a place where they're over their head.
Yeah, but the new guys have they're scared, or they come out, they don't want to mess up. They're checking their rings, everything before they jump. But that's what I heard.
Complacent. So almost every fatality in skydiving and injury occurs under perfectly functioning equipment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's operator error. And there was a period of time where there was this rush to get on just these very small canopies, and some of them If you make a miscalculation in altitude when you initiate a turn, the canopy is not capable of pulling out of it on its own. So you can imagine the rate of speed that you hit. And I've watched a few people die just by making a miscalculation.
You've actually seen people
I
die.
have. It sounds like exactly what you would think, that meat on fucking concrete. And have you ever been to a drop zone where there's really small canopies because the lines whistle? You'll hear them as they do those turns.
Of course.
So you hear that, but it should be bleeding off as they're coming in because they're slowing down. You'd be like packing a parachute and you'll hear it and you're like, that's too loud for that point in time. Whack.
Dang.
Yeah,
They've had a lot of guys injured doing the swooping, right?
Correct. Which is essentially what I'm describing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's smallest canopy I ever jumped was an 84 square foot canopy.
Way too small.
It was fine when I was very current, and as long as I was paying attention to what the fuck I was doing. But it is not something that you could take like a year off from and just throw that thing on your back and think you're going to be okay.
But the reason why they go smaller and smaller is there's more. It's just faster.
Faster, more distance. They have accuracy, they have distance, they have slalom, freestyle, and the more speed you get, the more energy that you have.
Right on. And the turns is what gets people too, right? Because you drop a certain amount of altitude.
Like it's a wing. So if you, like, I think I would do a right hand 270 degree turn to come in. I think my initiation altitude was 880 feet. So you're in your brakes a little bit, slowing it down. Then you let up and you grab your front risers to really energize the wing and get it diving. And it's this slow carving turn. But if you start that at like 740, I don't think, or 640, or somebody like cuts you off and you whip it too fast, there's a point where you are just staring at the ground. There's nothing you can do about it.
Dang.
Yeah, hard pass.
I think my instructor at our jump school, he later died. He had thousands of jumps, Sky God, and I think he hit a truck.
That is possible.
At Paris.
Yeah.
The side of it, I think.
So you learned out in Skydive San Diego?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I have been there when people have died from canopy shit.
It's crazy.
It sucks. It's a grounding experience for sure. Meaning like, wow, I've been out here for the last few months just really having fun, super high on life, and then you see that happen and you look at the person and they're experienced and knowledgeable and you're like, okay, if that can happen to them, maybe I should pay more attention.
Dang.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's not like getting your dick in a fucking belt sander.
Talk about a grinder, a meat grinder. You talk about getting,
Base jumping is a meat grinder, man. That's actually why I stopped. I lost one of my best friends. God, such a good dude. EOD guy, made it out to development group, was over there, got out, went to like the Wharton School of Business. And it no longer was worth it for me. I found other avenues to find that silence that I was looking for.
Yeah. And you've got to know your limitations. Like I don't know if I know my limitations, but I respect them enough and I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I don't go drink hardcore or go party or hang out with certain guys or this, that, because I know the type of guy that I was in the past.
Same here. Why expose yourself to that environment?
Yeah.
Like you can short circuit the bad decisions that you will make by just staying out of that environment. I'm the same way. Dude, we all fucking drank hard. I mean, it's always hilarious to me how it's like, okay, if you get a DUI, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But Friday at Team 5, it's like, hey, we're doing a kegger at noon.
Yeah.
And the fucking new guys better not be the last people to leave. And I'm like, this is the CO giving us the brief.
Yeah.
I'm like, sir, I fucking drove here.
Yeah.
How do you think I'm going to get home?
Yeah.
Also, and I'm supposed to pay for the keg as a fucking E3 making $7.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it.
They brought us to exactly. They brought us to Key West, man. My Master Chief, he was at Red, I think, for a while. And he came to STV, and then our commander. And they brought us to Key West, and they gave us a speech about not drinking while you're there in Key West, and how there was a curfew and all this stuff. Of course, we sneak out, we get blasted like SOP, standard operating procedure. We're coming back at like 3 a.m. We see my CO and the Master Chief from Red Squadron. He's standing in the middle of the street. They're wasted, and they're about to get in this brawl with these like 4 homeboys from Key West. We jump in, like save the day, start blasting everybody and run. And they're like, don't tell anybody we were out here. We're like, hey man, it was pretty funny.
The community it's
wild.
It's wild, and it's it is the most disciplined cowboys that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Have you ever seen guys that can like tie one on that hard and then show up to work and
I know.
produce
For decades.
for a long time?
Yeah.
It's kind of a personality trait. I don't know what it is about these guys that can do that.
Well, I think the training selects for a certain type of person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not what is it, about a 2-year process at this point from inception in
2
buds
year.
to getting your trident? Like,
Yeah.
you have to be a certain type of person to make it through that.
Yeah.
And I mean, the community rewards being able to grind above anything else,
Grind
putting
out.
everything aside. Your personal feelings come last. Left and right to you is more important than anybody else. And the only thing that matters is success. Yeah, you're going to get people who are able to do that shit.
Well, yeah, and when I was in, it wasn't acceptable not to drink. Like if you
Same when I was in. But
Right?
by doctrine, it's like, they're like, hey, no drinking, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. And the guy telling you that, I'm like, don't you have 3 DUIs? Like,
yeah, it used to be rewarded. I've heard that. Of course, it wasn't when I was.
were they
in.
still sending people to Ranger? So when I first got in, if you got a Dewey, Ranger School.
Bro? When
That was your punishment. And then you'd come back and they're like, yeah, welcome back. Like, really? Fucking Ranger School?
That's a big punishment,
It
bro.
is. Oh, they'd come back a fucking frail version of
Spit and
themselves.
blood.
Yeah.
yeah. You eat 1 MRE a day for months on him. Yeah, when I checked into STV, they were like, "Hey, you and this other guy are going to." He was a Marine too, drum. And we were prior Marines, man. We know all about Ranger School. You know,
I had
We
a
were-
prior Marine in my class, too. He was a gunny. He
Yeah.
was 38 in training.
God, that's insane.
He was eating 800 milligram Motrin like Pez. And
Of
I
course.
didn't get it at the time. And I'm 46 now. And I'm like, oh, I can't fathom going through training 8 years ago.
No,
I mean, fuck.
I thought I was old when I went in. I was going through training at 27, and
That's
that
on the
was
far end.
considered
Yeah.
old.
It is for most students. Yeah, early 20s is going to be the sweet spot for most people. 38.
No, man, no.
Yeah.
I think there's a sweet spot when you can make it too. I've heard guys say like, I would do it again. It's like, well, you just don't know. Like it's all about timing in life. I would have. It took me a while to mature, like physically,
Yeah.
Intellectually, all that stuff. So I had to go in at that time. I don't think I would have made it at a younger age.
Yeah, and I actually think people who are a little bit older have a better chance.
Me too.
They have a better context
Experience.
on life and experience. Yeah, I went through it when I was 18. I was one of the youngest guys. I think I was the youngest guy in my class.
Dang.
And yeah. I got lucky. So when I went back as an instructor, I didn't realize how many people got hurt. I was just like, hey, I'm going to be a SEAL and this is what you do. And I went through, and fortunately I was able to go through. I went back as an instructor. Like my strategy was shitty. I had no other options on the table ahead of me. It was like graduate or not. I didn't know what happened to people, the X division and all the problems that come with that shit as well too. You go back as an instructor, like, oh shit. Watching people legitimately fall off the top of the slide for life for no reason.
Sand darts, they call them.
I mean, so slide for life for people would be a multi-storied tower, call it 50 feet in the air at the top,
It's tall. It's high, man.
with ropes coming down.
Yep.
And anybody who doesn't even know how to get down would think that you would hold on to the rope for dear life. If I told you can go on the bottom of the rope or the top, I think they would hold on for dear life. I would watch people just fucking let go. And just,
There's no freaking way I was falling off that, and I was tired, man.
you'd say that. You're sitting there. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, the O course is way better as an instructor drinking a coffee than a student running through it.
Or drinking some liquor, yeah.
So I would kind of just stand there because another one of the main obstacles that people fail and get rolled in training for is that fucking stupid log swing right after the slide for life. Because
It's no joke.
it's no joke, but if you get the technique, you're fine. So I would kind of just sit there and I would have my back to the slide for life, and you would feel your feet move in the sand when people fucking lawn darted in. Oh. And you just turn around, and that's why usually the fucking corpsman vehicle is parked right there.
Did you see some guys burning?
Oh,
hard?
dude, full like
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
I've heard of guys breaking their neck.
I never saw anybody break their neck, but definitely like everything below the waist.
Oh man.
Yeah, they were not having a good day. Straight on the spine board, straight to medical, and I don't know what happened to him.
No,
after
it's
that.
the O course at Buds is very difficult. remember how long it was. It was just a beat down. And it's not just like you're showing up fresh. You're showing up with maybe some injuries, some micro tears and fractions, and then you hit the O course and you're just beat. Your grip is jacked up. But you're right. The last thing, the swing, it's all technique.
Yeah.
It was
you have
weird.
To catch the rope at the right time and carry your momentum. I watched countless students get rolled back in training from that rope swing.
You agree with that rope swing?
I don't know if I agree. Well, I mean, what is the job based on? You have to be able to perform.
You have to be able to perform, yeah.
And who is stopping you from every second in your off time going and figuring that fucking obstacle out? Nobody. Right? Like if you are going to get rolled in training for an obstacle that requires you to run at a certain speed, grab a rope, and land with your feet on top of a horizontal log to continue down to a hand-over-hand ladder climb, the dumbest obstacle on the fucking course.
Stupid.
It's so stupid.
So dumb.
Zero chance ever of that probably ever being replicated overseas. And people who are hearing this like, oh, maybe they don't have time. Buds is like 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, except for Hell Week. Go figure that shit out. So if you're not willing to figure it out or you can't, I have to say I agree with it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Because I noticed this. I would pass things pretty good. And I was like, maybe 40 out of my class, like ranked, if you want to put that, right? And but if I didn't really put in the focus at the time, like on the swim, like if I really didn't put out and I really wasn't doing it for the team, more importantly, my swim buddy, and you slacked off just this much. It's interesting how Buds was the great humbling process. It will show you your weaknesses. If you slack off this much, you had a chance of failing the whole thing.
Did you ever go back as an instructor?
Never did instructor. No.
It was fascinating. I did not want to go back. It was that's where I went after development group, largely to just kind of recover. I didn't want to be there, and that 18 months I spent there was the single most rewarding time of my career.
Wow.
It was cool, and it made sense of the curriculum that made no sense when I was going through. You're like, oh, that's why they do that. This I understand. Because you watch that curriculum spit out some of the best people you've ever seen.
Yeah, I've gotten some arguments online about my thoughts on females going through training.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are absolutely not. If you do not lower the standards, okay, if you don't lower the standards and a female makes it, then so be it. But even with that, I disagree with it totally, because you have to change every aspect. Look, we're all getting butt-ass naked all the time, putting petroleum jelly on your thighs.
You're peeing on people when you're huddled up at the pool deck.
You're peeing on people. You're huddled like this.
I have asked a man to urinate on my back before.
Yeah, my buddy had dysentery on me as I was pushing him up on his ass. I had his ass and he had dysentery. No, the Veg during Hell Week. So how? I mean, hell no, women shouldn't be in. And that should be a compliment towards females. Yeah. I think that should
it's
be
not taken as one.
It's not taken as one at all.
For them. I agree with you. If the standard is maintained, I don't give a shit. I'd high five them and be like, hey, welcome aboard.
Even operating with them, though. Because the dynamics change.
It does, but you got to think, though, women have been on the front lines of warfare since the beginning of warfare. Like my grandmother, actually. I didn't know this until she had already passed. She joined the Navy, was a frontline nurse for people coming off of amphibious invasions, like in a tent hospital, got post-traumatic stress from dealing with those, got kicked out of the Navy, lied about it, and fucking joined the Army to become a nurse again. So she was not like fighting in the front lines, but she was right there.
No, of course not.
And but intelligence asset, you know what I mean? Like women have kind of been around it, you know what I mean?
100%. I think women are smarter than men, generally speaking, when it comes to technical things. Check this out. I heard of a SEAL team, I wasn't there, that had a female Warthog pilot, A-10 Warthog pilot, and she saved their asses. This female pilot was badass. She came down and smoked, danger close, all these insurgents or Taliban, wherever, I think they were Afghanistan, and they were super impressed with this. I mean, she saved the day. So there's a place, just like there's a place for me. I mean, I know that place, right? I'm not going to try to go do things that that where I shouldn't be, right? Even if it's to try to prove myself in some aspect. Don't lower the standards, man.
If they do, that's the beginning of the end.
It's the beginning of the end.
That's one thing I feel good about in that time there as an instructor too, is I got to see there was a huge push. So I was there mid 2006 to 2008. There was a push to increase throughput.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And nothing changed from the curriculum. The curriculum existed and it did its job. And the leadership there was like, fuck all that. We're going to keep the product what it is.
Thank God.
That gives me a lot of faith.
Thank God, because other militaries have not necessarily done that.
Correct. Yeah, throughput became the emphasis, not the core product that throughput produces.
And I think that's sad. Look, my wife is Russian. Russian females had the highest body kill counts in Stalingrad during World War II, right? Some of the Russian snipers were women. They were hard as nails. I'm not saying they can't do the job. I'm speaking a little deeper into it, like the dynamics of the teams.
Yeah.
Having lived in it, all male, there's just a way to go about it. I have an all men's group. Females aren't allowed because I can't speak into females like a female can speak to a female, and then other men are not able to, let's say, be vulnerable about their certain situations if a female is in there, vice versa.
Yeah, I agree. Sean Strickland video. Fire away. This is how we met.
I will blast Sean Strickland in the face, dude. I don't care anymore. I
think we're bigger than him. I don't know how big he is.
Susan Strickland.
Susan Strickland.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm playing. Dude,
I think we're bigger than him, though.
What do you mean?
From a size perspective. Like, I'll blast him.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, I wonder how big he actually is.
No, I think he's 175 pounds.
I was going to say, I think he fights at like 180 to 175, so he maybe walks at like 195.
Yeah, and Andy, I'm not one of these guys, these muscle heads that say, well, because I'm big, I can beat this smart guy up.
I wasn't saying that. I was just
know.
trying to think of like, I wonder how big the guy actually is.
Let's break it down. Yeah. I think he's 175 pounds. Don't quote me on that.
He might fight at 175, I think. So walk around is probably heavier.
So he probably walks around and he can bang out.
Yeah.
The guy will blast. He's a scrapper. He's a sled dog. I like, in the SEALs, we like the sled dogs, right? But here's the thing, what I don't like, and I was thinking about this today before I came here, is that, he talks about coming over to his camp, I will fucking break any SEAL out there, which is what he's really saying, because the SEALs haven't lowered their standards. What he's really saying is he'll break anybody out there. He'll break any man out there, really, is what he's saying. Any man. That's the way I take it, okay? Yeah. And any military service guy. And so, but my thing is like, yeah, because you're talking about a game of rules and sparring, perhaps with a helmet on like Sneeko. But I'll tell you what, I would literally bang out with Sean Strickland any day of the week. if bare knuckle, let's go bare knuckle boxing.
Dude, you're psychopath.
That's I know, but I got my penis caught in a belt sander. Like, think about that.
I don't know if that's
It doesn't matter. No rules, nothing. But if there's rules, and if there's like, you're talking about gloves on, I'm not trying to diminish Sean Strickland the way he is. And I actually don't even have qualms with him, but it's just like one of those things where, yeah, let's do this, bro.
It's it's interesting. You and I definitely had a different take on that video, and I'm so fine with that. Like, when I listened to that video, it was what I took from that is come to a fight camp, and basically you wouldn't be able to tolerate the volume of training, is what I heard. You and I can agree. The SEAL teams doesn't teach you how to fight.
The SEAL teams does not teach you how to fight. But let me tell you something. I've been in 2 fights in Montana, bro. Two bar brawls.
Yeah.
In Missoula, about 15 guys jumped on me. And
those can get Western fast.
Bro, I didn't know how serious it was in Montana. You don't mess around in Montana.
Nope.
Now this is after my penis got caught in the belt center.
Yeah. You've been forged. That's your crucible.
My little brother. Yeah. After my little brother died, man. I mean, my nickname was Texas Tornado. Obviously there's something missing there where I don't care switch is there sometimes, and I've calmed down a lot, but after my little brother died, my hands stayed broken like for 2 years. I mean, literally, my hands were broken, and I would be debating whether to hit this guy, and I'd be like, all right, let's do it. And I'd just smash somebody again. And that's not bragging. I told my wife that one time. She was like, that's stupid. I agree. It's stupid. It's careless. It's a kind of a death wish in a way. And that's the kind of man I was, just wild.
How do you think about it now?
How do I think about all that?
No, just fighting. Like if now, would you be more, Sean Strickland video aside, would you be more likely to walk away or engage in a fight now?
I would hope that I would walk away and be the man of the hour and de-escalate.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it go south, and I've seen guys get really hurt. I've been blasted. I talked about with you before the show us doing training up in Glacier Park in the SEALs. And during that training, I had a massive goose egg on my head from a bottle. They don't necessarily smash when they hit you.
It's very movie-esque to think that it's always going to break.
Yeah. I had 2 bottles hit me in the head
Yeah.
in a similar spot. I thought it was somebody punching me, but one of my buddies said it was bottles. And just, it's a crazy life. And I don't want any part of that now. Although I would fight Sean Strickland for like a charity or something. Money goes somewhere.
Loser has to run their dick through a belt sander.
Yeah, try that. Try coming in my world for 1 week, brother. And you have to wear that shirt that I had to wear. I had to wear that shirt.
Well, I heard you made that shirt.
I didn't make the shirt.
Oh,
no.
fuck. I got bad gouge.
No, I didn't make I didn't make the shirt.
I thought, but what an excellent way to just own it. But like, fuck it. I'm going to make the shirt.
All right, I made the shirt, guys. No, one of the guys presented me the platoon guys. Yeah. They presented me this shirt, and so I was wearing it. I think the picture that you saw of me wearing it was during Matt's memorial. And so,
I mean, if there's ever a time to wear it,
yeah, his family was there and stuff, and everybody was looking at this crazy picture. I wish I still had that shirt, but it was a little too vulgar to wear around.
It was controversial.
I've been controversial my whole life.
Do you try to be, or you just find yourself there?
No, I mean, it's just it's who I am. I just try to speak from the heart. I try to speak what's on my mind, and I do speak. What is it called? Satire. When you
satirical, yeah.
When people don't know if you're joking or not, but you're kind of not joking, but you
that's the beauty of satire.
It's the beauty of satire, and so I've been known for that.
Or sarcasm, I think, is the word we're looking for. Sarcastic a little bit, but more it's like I'll joke without telling you it's a joke. I'll just let you. I think that's sarcasm.
Crazy, or is this guy?
I think that's sarcasm.
What? Yeah, and so a lot of people ask me sometimes about that. But I was dead serious about the video with Sean Strickland.
It's what led us to finally connecting.
Yeah.
And it started off not great, and here we are, and it's going to be just fine.
Yeah, and Andy, I like Andy. You can't help but, man, look, I try to act hard sometimes, but, man, you just can't help but like Andy. And I appreciate you helping.
Opinions probably vary on that one, but I do the best I can.
No, you're actually a very likable guy, and speak very, very well. I will tell you, I was not happy about what you said on Patrick Bet-David. First, I didn't like to be pulled into the same grouping as that other guy because it sounded as if me and him were the same, or I had defrauded some West Coast platoon, something weird like that.
Oh, no. That was literally a dude. So
what was that? I'm not trying to bash this guy.
This is all – people can Google it. So my first platoon – you know how it is in your first platoon, right? If they had said, hey, today's evolution is you're going to take your clothes off and roll around on hot coals, you're like, roger that.
Yeah.
So this guy in my first platoon, I think he was in like his 4th or 5th. This is pre 9/11. So these guys, at this point in time, it was like the volume of platoons that you had was like the metric. Not that you were doing anything in them, but you're like, oh, that guy's on his fucking 5th platoon. He knows what it's like.
Wow.
So this was the same night that I lost my trident for the first time, actually. Pulled a knife on a guy in a bar.
God, see, man, this is crazy, man. SEALs have the craziest stories.
Didn't get it like taken away, but I had just gotten my bird like 6 weeks before, and I was standing at fucking captain's mast, and the skipper, I was in my camis with the patch, and he slides a pair of scissors across the table. He goes, "Why don't you cut that off?" I'm like, "Fuck."
Oh man,
fuck,
brutal.
Man. But because this guy he was just drunk. He was the like obnoxious drunk team guy in a bar. And was like, there was a woman in there that looked like she was made out of candle wax. You know what I mean? She was a little pushing the scales a touch, if you will. Yeah. He commented on what he thought of her weight. Well, she happened to be related to the person who owned the bar, so he gets yanked out by the cops. We talked the cops out of getting him in the back of the car. They're like, "Hey, just take him home." So what does he do? Immediately goes back and starts talking shit to the bouncers. That's when I ended up pulling a knife, ran from the cops, successfully evaded the cops, met up with the platoon at an Irish bar across the street after running across fucking rooftops and jumping through a tree and landing on the concrete in front of him. He gets in a fight later that night, gets his ass beat because, again, the SEAL teams don't teach you how to fight. They teach you how to run your mouth sometimes. Yeah. So he ends up being removed from the platoon. Years later, he essentially started a Ponzi scheme through real estate. And of course, who did he target? The people who trusted him the most inside of that community. Yeah, man. So
that's real dirtbag stuff.
Totally. And I by no stretch was trying to compare the two of you. It was, I mean, I think he did federal time, like full on capital F federal time. It was gnarly.
Well, I definitely did run from the FBI. I definitely was on the run, and definitely had a wild life. And it's one of those situations where you think, man, I got caught for this. Like, I even asked the FBI, what I do? Like, I was asking them, they were explaining these charges. They had all my stuff on these projectors that I had been carrying around. And I asked him to explain. I said, "Hey, man, why did you guys arrest me for something I did do?" And they were like, "Jimmy, all we know is if you ever make it out of this, you need to write a book and grow tomatoes." They said, "Grow tomatoes and write a book." I said, "What? Grow tomatoes?"
Yeah.
And but yeah, man.
You were correct to be upset about what I said with Patrick Bet-David. So that was a shotgun question. Like, I didn't know that he was going to talk about that. But I'm responsible for what comes out of my mouth. And like I've said to you, there was a way I could have described how I felt and left it at that. And that's what I should have done, and like the video I put up where I was basically telling people like, "Hey, I got out in front of my skis," which shocks me how many people will comment and be like, "Oh, it's so brave for you to apologize." I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I thought it was amazing.
It's one of the easiest things to do.
But it's one of the hardest things to do for men that are still living behind the mask. When you came out and apologized, brother, it took the wind out of my sails because I was like, I guess I can't say much because and I really respected that about you. That's why I'm here. I really respected that about you. I thought that was the next level stuff.
Dude, so easy, though. I am not perfect, so I can't expect perfection out of anybody else. Everybody has these moments where they say or do something that you shouldn't. Like, I have is the child you have right now your first child?
Yeah. It was
How
first
old?
baby, 2 months.
Okay, so enjoy them. My kids are getting ready to go into birthday season. My daughter works at the coffee shop. She's going to be 16.
Wow.
My middle son's going to be 19. My fucking oldest son is going to be 21.
Yeah.
The number of times I have apologized to them just for falling short of the example that I wanted to be as their parent, like, you have to do it.
Super important.
And it gets easier the more that you're willing to do it. And it's like you're just a fucking human being. The biggest issue for me, and I think I told you this in one of our messages.
Yeah, tell me the issue. I want to hear this.
No, not to the Strickland one, but for me feeling that it was important to apologize was that for whatever reason, like around January of this year, I just had this feeling of just being overwhelmed with negativity. And I don't mean like I felt negative. I felt like everything in the fucking world is negative. The news is negative. Social media is negative. Comparison. You know what I mean? Like, and these people who have obviously never been in a fight because they'll say anything to you over social media specifically. Like, my rule is the elevator principle. If you wouldn't say it in a locked elevator, don't fucking say it online.
Yeah, that's a great.
It's like, it would really round the edges on some stuff. But I had the realization of like, I don't want to add to that shit. And I did with my reaction when, again, he shotgunned me with that. I didn't know it was coming, but that doesn't mean that I'm not responsible for what I say.
Yeah.
My only, I guess, I would say the main philosophical issue that I have is I don't like the romanticizing of taking of life and soldiering. I think it is something that is not as big of a deal that people make it out to be. I mean, I don't know your experience and mine, but taking a life is not hard. And I think it should be spoken about in precise terms that are very grounded, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
What's scary about taking a life is exactly what you said. It is the easiest thing
simple
to do.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's easier than hunting a deer, and it's sad.
Especially when they're trying to kill you. I haven't had a deer try to kill me yet, but I bet that'd be easy to fucking kill
A
it.
moose will kill you up in here at Glacier, but yeah, it's super easy, like you said. But that goes back to my satire. Mm-hmm. That goes back to the way I speak.
Which I did not know at the time.
Yeah, you did. You obviously didn't know that.
I did not.
And that's so. Is that on me or is that on you?
Me.
Well, and also like it could be on me too because when you talk like I do, you have to expect some heavies and you have to expect people to not get you. The guys that know me or get me are like, oh yeah, that's Jimmy being Jimmy. It's funny. But what I was saying to Sean Strickland, what I was saying is that don't talk about taking souls, brother. Yep. That you don't have any idea what it's like to take a soul. That and I went around that in a different way by saying that. For sure.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I'm glad we eventually met.
Yeah, me too. It's been fun. It's been fun.
What, dude? Where did you grow up? Like, how did you get on this path that you got on?
I grew up in West Texas. I grew up on this farm. It was called the Milshoe Ranch. The Milshoe Ranch. I think the originator was a bullwhip guy.
What brought your parents there? Like what?
My dad was a crop duster, a Texas judge, a preacher, a landowner there, and he owned this old farm. And all me and my little brother did was play out there and dig holes, army holes. Andy, all I ever wanted to do was join the military. I didn't care about nothing else. Like, it's crazy. Like, I didn't care. I didn't think ahead, like, past the military.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be a SEAL. But I didn't have what it took when I was younger. So, and I've told the story a lot. But
how did you know that, though?
I don't know.
Because let me tell you, as an instructor, you see a lot of people who would be great in the teams, but they're there early.
Or they're too early.
They're there too early.
Yeah.
Well, you look at little kids nowadays. They pick up a stick and they act like they pretend it's a spear or a weapon or a bazooka. They build forts. They play army. Mm-hmm. Little kids, little bitty tiny kids. Where are they getting this? I think it's instinctually in us to be warriors as young boys, right? You try to put that kid indoors, inside, right? Lock him inside. Well, now the kid's playing Call of Duty for double the hours as he was when he was doing the bazooka outside. So I had that instinct about me to want to fight. Every man's got to fight some type of battle, whether that's on Wall Street or it doesn't have to be a kinetic war, but mine was kinetic. And so I was always chasing the war carrot, so to speak, even before 9/11.
When did you end up joining?
99 in the Marines. So before 9/11. And so, but I was going for a war. It was weird. And everybody was like,
Most Marines are. If you're going to pick a branch of service,
yeah.
People ask me like, what do you think about the military? I'm like, tell me about what your goals are. Well, I'd like to get some vocational training and never go to war. Perhaps consider the Air Force. And I'm not talking shit on the Air Force. I'm saying there's some great things there that you can do that likely wouldn't be infantry based. Yeah. They're like, I want to build trenches and stab a motherfucker. I'm like, you should go talk to the Marines.
Go to the Marines. I know the Marines get like a bad rap too sometimes. They're like jarheads, this and this.
They're fantastic.
They're freaking incredible.
Yeah.
The
esprit de corps in the Marines is unmatched in any other service.
I agree with you, Andy. The only esprit de corps, the only tradition that I ever noticed in the SEALs was on the island. Remember all the pictures in the instructors' huts?
Yeah.
I mean, just nostalgic. I mean, these pictures of these UDT guys smeared in grease, drinking torpedo juice, getting in the Normandy ice cold waters, and probably dying. Jap Scullies blowing them up. And that's what's missing now. That's what's missing out of our schools. That's what's missing out of our military, I believe. And that's one thing I hope the Marine Corps never loses is that tradition. Dan Daly, Spentley Butler. I mean, every single Marine listening to your podcast, which there's many, will totally relate when I say Chesty Puller, Spentley Butler.
Even I know about Chesty Puller.
Battle of Bellwood,
Yeah.
Tufel tattooed on my chest. Jumping on barbed wire. It's just something about it.
Yeah.
And if you lose that, I think that's when you have a trouble on the battlefield, is because I remember what my big brothers did. I'm talking about in the Corps. Mm-hmm. So and we remember what our brothers did in the SEALs, all these guys that died. And so
I think it's what leads people to struggle after, too, because they detach from that esprit de corps, the community, the shared purpose. They geographically isolate, and they start having some serious problems.
Yeah, they're saying now it's called basically operator syndrome. PTSD is a form of grief. If you think about it, you're grieving the loss of your brothers, your sisters, your people, your peeps, your tribe. You're not part of a tribe anymore, so you feel detached and lost. That's what happened to me.
Have you read the book Operator Syndrome?
I have not.
So
I've read some articles about it.
So I had the guy on, Chris Free.
Really?
Fucking awesome. I might have a copy. I might have a copy over there I can send you with.
Let's do it.
Dude, that guy, he gets it. You know what I mean? Like, you could talk to people who are experts at what goes on between the ears, and you're really smart, but I don't know if you're connecting the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
This motherfucker has, like, the Mona Lisa all snapped in. Like, he gets it.
It's pretty powerful. People need to people need to read that book. People need to read up on operator syndrome. I think it's a term that's going to be used like we started hearing PTSD 15 years ago.
What I'm curious about is how the military proactively deals with it. Because I don't know if you can do the job that we did and not have some of those symptoms, if not all of those. So if you know that's going to be happening on the tail end, how do you fucking prep people for that on the front end?
Well, you can't send them to some kind of de-escalation little camp. They just get angrier. Like these guys that were being made to go to some kind of post-deployment
TLD, third location decompression.
That's like going to solitary confinement in feds.
Well, the problem was they also added alcohol. So they would fly you to Germany and say you have 72 hours, don't get in trouble, don't drink too much.
Oh, you're going to go crazy,
the
man.
guys are drinking enough alcohol to fucking fill this room after probably not having much, if any, for the last 6 to 10 months. And just because you stopped in Germany, you think you're going to be okay when you get home?
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. Well, look at the Roman Empire. They were walking back and stopping at campfires every single night on their way back home for like a year. I don't know the timing, but it was a long time. Yeah. And what were they doing? Around that campfire, they were talking about their war stories. I hit this guy with an axe. I did this. And by the time you got home, done walking home, you're done telling your war stories. You're kind of okay with going back in. Now we take a flight. 72 hours later, you're back at home. Honey Boo Boo sitting there hitting your little dog with a toilet paper roll. Stuff's flying everywhere. You're kind of like, how do you come back to that? And that was what was so difficult for me coming back from deployments, is I didn't want to come back to reality.
So would you agree that life overseas is fucking easy?
I loved it.
From the perspective of you're not worrying about shit.
No, I loved it.
Yeah. You're task, mission focused. Yes, maybe the washing machine is detonating on your wife, but you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like you're not worried about your car payment, your mortgage. You're not worried about anything other than the next fucking cycle of darkness. It was one of the easiest places to operate in because all the bullshit is stripped away.
Yeah. I loved it. You were
like, oh, must be so hard on deployment. It's like, I'm here to tell you right now, it was fucking awesome.
It was the best. It was the best time of my life. I agree. Blackwater. We had the man camp. We would eat pizzas, smoke cigarettes after a big firefight. We would huddle around drink these big Heinekens, whether they were hot or cold. It didn't matter.
I mean, that's kind of gross. Hot Heineken. Not that Heineken is my favorite, but hot Heineken, goddamn.
They were freaking nasty. But, after a firefight and after a hot day, you just didn't care. And you're around a bunch of like-minded warriors, and you're kind of living the dream. You're kind of living your dream. My dream was to go to war. So I was living that life, and it was hyped up. And then how do you come down from a trip like that? It's your proverbial Las Vegas trip where it's very difficult to come down from.
How did Blackwater deal with that? What was their rotation cycle back? Did they just bring you back?
They didn't. They didn't care.
Nothing. Okay.
They like to see guys. They started implementing the 2 on, 1 off, so 2 months on, 1 month off cycle, which was cool. But I just wanted to stay. But 9 months in Baghdad, you're gonna get hit. You're going to get injured. Something's going to happen, right? Guys are going to die that closely. There's going to be a mess. And I think those highs and lows are kind of what I live for too. I just enjoyed my time over there, man. Never minded the firefights. Not trying to act badass. It just for me they were like you just felt like you were alive.
I never minded firefights. You know what I hate?
What?
With a fucking passion? IEDs.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a choice to fight. I didn't like the idea of sitting there and then maybe you're turned into a cannoli. Like if people want to, and again, I'm not trying to be a badass by any stretch, but if you want to, I mean, let's be honest too. The people that we were fighting from a technical and tactical perspective were behind us. If you want to get on a 2-way range, cool, we can do that. This thought of left foot, right foot, vaporize, that one scrambled my eggs a bit, man.
Big time.
Yeah. Big
time. I can remember rolling. I can remember heaving the 240 belt-fed machine gun out to the trucks when I was on the QRF team. And I can remember, man, there's no other feeling like that. It's the sun's coming up. It's Baghdad, Iraq, middle of the summer. The sun's barely up, and you can hear just these thuds. I mean, just these IEDs, V-bids going off at the gates, the checkpoints you're about to roll out. And I mean, I'm talking total decimation, just annihilating everything. And you could see the plumes of smoke, and you're still loading your stuff up. You're still going through that burning gate out on a mission. There's no stopping you. Missions were rarely canceled. If the terp didn't show up, we didn't go out, of course.
That's smart.
We're like, okay, you're not showing up today? We're not showing up either, brother, because we're not going. I ain't playing this game.
Yeah.
But to go out there, and you're right. I can remember the anxiety involved in when you're a turret gunner or inside the vehicle and you're going by a vehicle and you're just like, this is the one. It's going to blow up and it's just going to disintegrate me. And that happened a lot, man.
So when I got injured, I got taken to the green zone, flown by helicopter to Balad. The guy in the hospital bed next to me was standing. He was a turret gunner, and he was worse than Swiss cheese from the waist up, getting medevaced to Germany. Something I don't know if it was a V-bit or a guy with the vest on, but clacked off next to him, and he ate all of the frag.
People just don't know.
No, they couldn't give that guy enough medicine to keep him quiet. That was the worst experience about getting medevaced. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe. I think it was a C-141 flight from Balad to Germany. Every square inch of that aircraft was full of people who were more injured than myself, and they were in fucking pain. It was gnarly. Then you get to Germany, and it's like a 20-minute bus ride on the Autobahn, just fucking rattling all over the place. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
People just in the worst excruciating pain of their life.
Yeah.
It was gnarly.
Yeah. I remember being in James Haley Veterans Hospital, and my injuries were up here from the traumatic brain injury associated with the AGE. And I can remember doing 3 months there. And I remember when I first got there, I was having this big pity party on myself. But I would walk past these rooms because they would allow you to walk past. I was on the polytraumatic ward, but they would allow you to walk around in your little gown or do stuff. And I can remember walking by these rooms and seeing these guys, man, that were just destroyed.
Yeah.
burnt, unrecognizable. And I started feeling just ashamed of myself, of my situation, going, how dare, I mean, I don't have any right to be down on myself. That was a huge eye-opener. In fact, I started writing down some things, and I remember one night I wrote down, "War is no match for her aftermath," and that's when I started to change a lot of the outlook I had on my own life, the little self-pity parties and stuff. Woe is me, because things don't always go as you plan in the SEALs. I was wanting to do a 25-year career, Master Chief, and all this stuff, and then you wake up. Your wife's standing over, you're dying in the hospital bed, you're blacking out, you're like, and you realize, man.
Because you had a diving injury, right?
Life is short.
Yeah.
Life is quick, yeah.
For people who didn't catch it, he said AGE, which is air gas embolism, normally associated with holding your breath on ascent. How did you end up getting AGE?
So we were doing visit board search and seizures from underwater to the top. So we were going in on the SDV. So we would go in on the SDV, exit the SDV, right? Take all of our gear off on a breath hold.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they do this anymore, but
I know what you're talking about too.
Super dangerous.
Blow a bubble up, follow a seam.
Yeah. So take all your gear off, put it on a lizard line, and then we would FSA ourselves up.
Yeah. Free swimmer ascent.
Free services, and then we would come up and then hook and climb, take down the ship, and then we would do this in training. Iterations of this. Yeah. And you start becoming hypoxic, man. It's like doing a CrossFit workout, and now you're having to hold your breath and jump back in the water and on a breath hold. So we were jumping from the ship deck pretty high.
Yeah.
And on like this, you're already red. You've cleared the whole ship. You know all about that. Clearing, clear. And then you're hot. The engine room's hot. You got some burns going on and your eyes and stuff. And then we were holding our breath, jumping in the water, and then going down.
Getting back on bag, probably.
Downing our Draker, the Widowmaker, the thing that's going to kill you. We down that, all procedures.
Yeah.
It looks like a freaking octopus underwater looking at you. It sounds like it would be easy to just put it on. It looks like it's unrecognizable underwater.
And it's the gear monster. Like, everybody's unclipping their shit and their fins, and there's carabiners and hoses, and it's like, better make sure you close the fucking valve.
Close the valve, or guys, by the way, if
caustic cocktails.
Pink frothy sputus coming out.
So bad.
Yeah, so you have to remember all these things. And I remember putting on this my gear on the breath hold. I'm chicken necking, like, you could hear guys underwater going,
Yep.
And it makes like pool comp at Buds look easy, this stuff.
Yep.
And because now you're having to produce. And how embarrassing is it going to be if like you something happens? And so I'm putting on my gear, and I just remember I woke up in my buddy's arms on the surface.
Oh boy.
I'm supposed to be down. I'm supposed to be getting in the SDV right now with all my gear. And I'm like in my buddy's arms like this, and he's slapping me, and he's like, "Bro, wake up." And he's slapping me real hard, and I remember grabbing him, but he's grabbed me real tight. His name was Knuckles. He's strong as a monk. Some of these SEALs are people just don't realize. There's guys out there.
They're Cro-Magnon motherfuckers. They're missing chromosomes.
Freaks of nature.
Yep.
Like just grab you. You can't even. I was like paralyzed in his arms, and I was big. And he said, "Bro, you ain't going nowhere." And I was like, "Dude, get off me, man. We're supposed." I was real confused. And he said, "Man, you were seasoned out underwater, and we're not tandem in."
Yeah.
And thank God it was daytime.
Yeah, thank God he saw you.
I bumped into him. He thought I was a shark. He literally goes, he goes, "Huh," and because you're putting your gear on.
Yeah.
And he saw me. What injured me was, okay, so who knows what happened with it could have been soda sorb channeling, the chemical, CO2 in my.
Oh, you got a bubble when he pulled you to the surface, didn't he?
He cracked my Secumars, my O2 bottles on the side, poof, and I shot to the surface like a red October. And thank God he saved me. Yeah, it's not his fault, but I
caused an AGE in the process.
Caused the AGE, which in SDV you're going to get injured. They say. 26 weeks of everybody has some sort of scare where you're going to be chambered. That's like 100% across the board. The problem with me is when I came up, just like all of us do, Andy, I said, I'm fine.
Yeah, totally.
I'm good.
Yeah, because you got to continue on. You don't want to be the weak link.
Yeah, I didn't know I had an AG. I didn't know I had that arterial gas that bubble. And so when I came on the ship on the board the boat, I said, let me go back down. But I was shaking real weird. And she thought it was because of the cold water. You know, Hawaii, even warm water's cold, right? In the seals. And so I said, let me go back. And she goes, no, you're going to sit out. And the guy was like, aren't you going to chamber him? Like, when in doubt, chamber out. He was seizing underwater, just to let you know. In the dive book, brother, it says, you know, seizure, dive chamber.
Yeah, straight to the chamber.
Should have been dive chamber. But our expert doc was out on a national tasking with another platoon on the big sub, the mothership.
Yeah.
And so this new doctor was with us, and she didn't want to reverse her decision. She wanted to make a solid call and not reverse it. And so she decides to send me home on the 4th of July weekend. This is the beginning of Jimmy's problems, a lot of problems that I had. And when you do that, you might as well got hit by an IED in your brain after about 4 days. You put a rubber band on your hand for 4 days to see what happens, you know, put a rubber band around your neck. You know, you cut off oxygen to the brain, and it gave me, you know, half paralyzed. I mean, it was
So you knew something was off.
Life-ending almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, about after 4 days.
Holy fuck. I'm assuming they got you into a chamber at some point.
Yeah, one of the craziest things, man, is they sent me home, and I was fine, right? I drank some beers. I felt off.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I had a little bit of, you know, had a little mistake at the SDV. It's okay. I was still confused. Like, why did I seize out? Why did I, you know, why did that happen to me, you know? And so I have a couple beers, and I knew something was wrong because the next day I woke up, and that night I couldn't sleep in the same bed with my wife. I was irritated, and you know that's common. You know, you get irritable diving 26 weeks straight with a Draeger on, and so I go lay on the couch, and my little dog, that little Tookie we talked about,
fucking eyeballing you again.
He came over. He's like, "How dare you waterboard me? I will kill you, you son of a."
That thing was waiting for you to die to eat your eyeballs.
Tookie was always waiting for me to die. You know, I don't know. I know why. Okay. Anyways, but the little Chihuahua, he comes over and he is like old Yeller. He's whimpering like in my ear all night, and I'm like, that ain't right. You know, and this little guy could detect seizures, the seizure alert. And so he was whimpering. And so, man, after that 4-day weekend, I tell my wife, hey, listen, I think I'm a dead man. I think I should have been chambered about 4 days ago. If you know anything about, you know, AGs and stuff, you know, the bubble's probably dissipated. But it's blocked valuable blood and oxygen to your brain. And so the doctor still doesn't want to reverse the call. She still says, no, take him to Tripler emergency room. I go to Tripler for 2 days. The only thing that's chilling me out is morphine. The doctors are baffled, right? So they don't know what to do with me. She won't reverse her decision. Long story short, this head of this hospital walks by, like in a flash. You could tell he's in a suit, but he's got the white coat over with some pins, slick black hair, good-looking guy. He walks by, and he stops. And they've left me to die in this room. Like, I'm dead, man. I'm like at a 1, 0 being dead. And only my wife is there, just lost. And my chief has been there on and off. He's like, Jimmy, if I could run this dive chamber, I would. Everybody's screaming at her. All the SEALs are like, what's wrong with you? She won't change her mind. It's a freaking nightmare. And finally, I just gave up. I said, forget it. I guess it's just in the cards for Jimmy to die, right? And so, but this doctor walks by, and I'll never forget, he stopped, and he looked in there, and he said, hey, why are you in here? And I was so bad off, Andy. I was like kind of like this, and I said, what? And he said, why are you in here? I've seen you in here before a couple days ago. Why are you still? And I said, I'm a SEAL. I'm 30 years old. Never had an injury before. I had a diving accident. Now I'm dying. That's all I could say. Something like that.
Yeah.
Very short. And he said, get this guy to the dive chamber now. And I mean, everybody it's like a bomb went off in the hospital. Everybody ran, skedaddled. I mean, because his word was authority. It was a miracle that he saw me, that he walked past at that moment. I mean, the hospital's massive, Tripler. Just so happened to walk by, and he was walking fast. And so they got me on a stretcher, loaded me in the dive chamber. Dude, I probably have the record for being in the dive chamber. They They did 2 weeks straight of extension 9 tables. So the longest you could be in the dive chamber, I think it was 9 hours a day with pure O2 on and off, so I don't have O2 toxicity and seize out. And that barely over 2 weeks with 1 day off, and I was sleeping there at the chamber. I mean, that's all day in a little bitty tube,
Yeah.
you know, with O2. And I was like freaking out, like, because it was so bad. And when I came out of there, I was like at maybe a 4. I came in there at maybe a 1, 0 being dead.
I mean, at least you're improving a little bit, but goddamn, dude.
Yeah. And all I could do, man, was after that was hope and pray. And I started doing research on my own. And they said some SEALs that had this in the past, back in the day, couldn't live with it and committed suicide because the pain was tremendous. It was like I'd be sitting there and it would feel like somebody just came over and stabbed me in the leg, like for no reason. I'd be like, like
nerve pain too, probably.
Nerve pain, weird syncope episodes, meaning like I would pick up a piece of trash on the ground, stand up and pass out, like and so my life was just wrecked, brother. When I was a team leader doing national tasking to now I'm just like my life is wrecked. And so I started praying to God. I started praying, man, help me. And my parents were praying and I was doing a lot of research and it was doom and gloom. They sent me to James Haley Veterans Hospital for rehab and stuff. And I just started to climb out of it. And, they said some people don't. Yeah. But it's like my brain just kind of rewired itself after a long period.
Fuck.
And I finally was able to get out of that. Yeah.
Did they medically retire you from the teams, though?
Full, yeah, I got a full
good.
medical, yeah.
Okay, as you should. That lady should have fucking proactively put you in a chamber.
It was...
Dude, when in doubt, press it out. Like, what's the fucking... What's the potential negative of putting somebody in a chamber that doesn't need to be in there? Fucking zero. Like, yeah, you got to spin up maybe 12 guys that are trained to do that. Or you might end up saving somebody's life and career.
You know what it was? She probably was taught to make decisive decisions as a doctor. And when you make that decisive decision, stick with it. Because she was so stubborn about it. And even the dive master chiefs, they were like, hey, you better chamber this guy, man. Like, this is a big deal. But she refused. And man, she basically got fired from that job. She got sent away. She didn't want to give me my medical records and stuff. But I said, hey, if you don't, I'm going to blow you up. Just to let you know, my mission's going to be just ruin you because you're basically ruining me. And I had to fight a lot of forgiveness, Andy, about that. But so it's not how I wanted it to end. A lot of other things happened during that time. I remained at the SEAL Command. I definitely could have done an instructor position stuff, but I was done, Andy.
How old were you when they medically retired you?
I was, I think I was 38 or 39.
I think that's, let me see here, 2013, 11. Yeah, I was 35 or 36.
27.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. 2017, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was younger.
How old were you?
I joined in 96 at 18. Well, let's just do that. So I was born in 77, 2013, so 23, 33, 36.
I think the problem, though, Andy, is that people shouldn't expect, people shouldn't look at the long-term aspects of things sometimes. I think people get in trouble. Like, they put too much value in that. Like, I was putting too much value in becoming a Master Chief, 25 years. But in reality, that doesn't happen a lot because things happen, like injuries, death, all kinds of different circumstances in our life and so we have to be flexible, and understand that there's not one straight path to that island. Storms are going to come crashing across our bow.
Yeah.
On the sunny days, the wind's going to leave our sails and just leave us adrift out there. And it's going to take time and patience. But the one thing we can do is work on that vessel, during that time.
It's funny you say that. So in 2005 is when I got injured. And laying in a hospital bed, I'm like, this is the fucking worst that could ever happen.
Yeah, I think you got shot, right?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
So I was at development group on a cross-training deployment with A Squadron from CAG. Those guys are fucking awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Operating I mean, it's like, dude, it was awesome. I mean, I went through selection in 2002, and it's like get sent to a squadron, like the first initial invasion of Iraq. We're over there, and then it's just ping-ponging back and forth between Iraq and Afghanistan. Every night with the fucking 160th landing helicopters in places I still don't think they're supposed to go. But
No.
fuck, dude.
That, man, those guys.
I was on a little bird one time, and I got off. I used to like to sit on the front right skid, and I got off, and I looked up. I swear to God, the rotor blade was underneath the fucking concrete portico of one of those.
Bro, I believe
I'm just like,
it.
I'm just like, please leave, because I need to take 2 steps to my security position, and I don't know how little birds tolerate breaching charges, but we're about to find out if you don't fucking move this thing.
Yeah, their blades will be literally like almost skipping off of another building.
And of course, on nods with no depth perception, I'm like, I actually am not going to look. Please just move the bird.
Yeah, you know, in Blackwater, they used to put just 2 of us on a little bird, on a blackbird. Literally 2 of us, with a go bag full of grenades and a saw, a sawed-off saw in a nut sack and some water, and they would drop us off, 2 of us, on the top of a building, and then we would wait there all day, do an advance for the principal to come in, the rest of the team. I look at that as being one of the stupidest things I ever did in my life, because you're asking to be beheaded.
Totally.
No matter how much money you, no matter how much ammo you have, but those little birds would literally go under the bridge, over a bridge, and then they would land on top of the skid, and they would put the skid on the skyscraper like this, and expect you to just walk off of it. And you're going, man, it's ballsy.
How about the 47 pilots who are up front and can put the tail wheels on a fucking mud building in Afghanistan, drop the ramp down, and people can just walk.
Oh man.
As they're like fucking, they're just like, just wheeling it up. They're like, hey, boys, get on.
I got so much respect for those guys. They need to talk to those guys about the Bin Laden raid. You know? Like, Seriously.
For sure. But so I'm laying in a hospital bed.
What happened? Yeah.
So I'm laying in a hospital bed, and I'm like, all I ever wanted to do in my life was be a SEAL since I was 11. Yeah. So it's all I ever thought about. Never. Could I have performed well in high school? Who knows, because I didn't try. So barely tripped and fell over the GPA required to graduate high school. Never took my SATs, didn't give a fuck. All my friends were stressing about college applications. I'm like, no, not my jam. Go to the Navy. Didn't even know that development group was a thing when I joined. 2 guys in my first platoon were training to go to the screening. And this is like before any like really information was out about it. So I'm like, where are you guys going? I'm like, oh. This seems like the natural progression. So in my second platoon, started training for that because we were in fucking Guam, pre-9/11 deployment, so nothing to do but work out. Go there, make it through, get to a squadron right after fucking 9/11, initial invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, bang, 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 flat on my back. And the only thing I could think of was, how do I get back on active duty? Because this is all I know how to do and it's all I want to do. And now I look back at that moment as an absolute blessing, because it forced me to think about what if I can't? And I had never thought about that. I had never thought about what I was going to do if I couldn't keep being a SEAL. And I was like, whoa, this is going to end at some point in time regardless. Maybe I can get back on active duty, maybe I can't. But if I can, I'm still going to have to figure out what I'm going to do after this at some point. And it was the first time that I lifted my head up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's when I think that's when a lot of depression and these thoughts started coming in on me, is that I started to realize that this ain't forever.
No.
And my time is now done. Now what am I going to do, right? And so that's when I retired, I just was like pretty lost, man.
I don't think that's uncommon. If I hadn't started looking up, and then when I went over to Bud's, I started doing some moonlighting for a company outside of the military. I was like, oh, we can work on both here a little bit. Like, why not think of what's after the military while in the military? You know, I was able to do one more deployment in 2010. My body was like, hey, you can go fuck yourself. Like, you're not going to be able to do this anymore. I'm like, okay. But I had an off-ramp. I can empathize so deeply with people who have not thought about or even created those off-ramp, and they get to NAS North Island and they pick up their fucking DD-214 and they drive off base and they pull over and they go, what do I do now? And you would think that nobody who comes from the background that we do, which rewards critical thinking and problem solving, would wait that long to think about what the next step is. The number of people I know that did exactly that is shocking.
Yeah, and I think one of my clearest memories of what you're talking about is right directly after I'm walking up the stairs of my home in Valley Center, and I remember my knees were crunching, and I could hear them. I could hear my knees, and I was like,
Traditionally not a good sign.
yeah, and I'm like walking up these stairs, and I'm just like, God, is this how it ends? Like, how could this? Like, I just felt like it. I felt like it was all for nothing. I know it's not like that now because I have a clear perspective. And I hear guys say, man, it's all for nothing and stuff. But you have to have a better perspective about it than that. You have to think deeply, and it takes time. There's a lot of hate involved because we pulled out of Afghanistan wrong. There was no weapons of mass destruction in Baghdad, obviously. And so you start to be like, man, what the hell was it all for, right? And so that's kind of was my attitude when I got out. I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to live anymore.
How'd you go from the Marines to Blackwater? Because obviously that's in between your time in the teams. Why'd you decide to go from one to the other?
Well, straight up, man, I went and took – I wanted to do the SEALs. And so I go take my ASVAB and, paper, pencil, and this elderly lady sitting there, and I scored like 2 points below 50.
Okay.
Because I dropped out of school when I was like 13 years old. I dropped out of school. Well, my parents took me out of school. And so I was on my own, man, since I was 13. And so I had to – I was not taught proper math. I didn't listen when they were teaching math. And so I go and take my ASVAB, and I score 48. And it's – they can waiver a point. And so I'm begging this lady right from the Marine Corps, right? I'm begging this lady – oh man, please give me a 50, please. She scores my paper. There's all this red ink on it, and I'm just like, oh come on. And she goes, I can waiver you 1 point. I said that only gives me a 49. I said give me 1 point, please. And she's like, I'm sorry, I just can't. And I was so pissed because that was my chance to go to SEALs, and so. So I walk out there pretty disappointed, and I'll never forget this guy was standing there, these woodland camis with these wings on his chest, a beret, green beret guy, pretty muscled up dude. He just looked impressive, and he grabbed my shoulder and he was like, "Hey, today's not your day, but maybe tomorrow is." And I said, "Man, I don't know, man, about that." He goes, "Hey, check it out. Come here. Let me tell you something." And he was a recruiter for somebody else that was there, and he pulled me to the side. He said, "Hey, you ever heard of Blackwater?" And I said, I have, but barely. Like you have the Rhodesian SAS doing stuff, anti-poaching patrols, all this stuff. And I wanted to go do something adventurous. Part of one of our core desires, man, fight a battle, be adventurous. And so I said, yeah, man, how do I do that? He goes, well, look them up, put in your resume. Who knows? Maybe that's your time, man. Then come back go to the SEALs or something. And I said, all right. And so it took that. Masculinity bestows masculinity, strengthens masculinity. And it really took that guy doing that. If he wouldn't have done that, I probably would have never gone to Blackwater. But when he did that, and he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, hey, today's not your day, but maybe tomorrow is. Like, don't give up, man, no matter what. And that was kind of the ethos of my life. Don't ever give up, man. Even when you don't have it up here necessarily, or you're not picking up what the other kids are picking up. And so I went and put my best application in, which was just a bullet list of stuff. Didn't even know how to do a resume, man. God, bro. Just put a bunch of stuff down. Ninja Warrior.
Fuck yeah. Throwing star champion.
Yes. All this crazy stuff. And just shot it off. And they must have been desperate to fill contracts. But it was brand new. And so they weren't really concerned about your resume. So when we got there, I was in one of the first classes, and the guys.
Was this down in Moyock?
Moyock, North Carolina, and Eric Prince was there still hanging out, and the guys that were my instructors were just off of the Cars I detail, some CAD guys, some dev group guys, very impressive dudes, and I remember they came in there like, all right, all that bullshit you guys put on your application, now you got to prove it. And I'm going, I'm like, oh, here it goes, And I had done some cool stuff in the Marines with SOTG and stuff, but man, they basically just, they were like, meet out on the range in 10 minutes. You're going to qual the 200-yard range with an AK-47. You're going to qual with this. And it was all quals. You know, qual with a saw, qual with a 240, qual with a 203. And that 203 course was the hardest thing that I had done up until that day.
No shit.
There was high winds. It was a mailbox at like 400 meters, and you had to hit it within this circle, bro. And I'm like, dude, who can do this? It was
Fucking golden eggs are my favorite, dude.
Oh, it was my favorite. They were my favorite. But what's weird is like I barely got it in there. It was like a golf course, you know, the wind's blowing, and I barely just landed in
you
there.
could probably see the thing corkscrewing through the air too.
Yeah, and the guy was like, "You're lucky," and it just barely got in there, smashed the mailbox. But overseas, when it really mattered, I mean, I could like basically hip fire that thing, the golden egg machine, and just dook, and it would go through a window and blow up, take a guy out, or hopefully. And so I that was one of my weapons of choice. I love that.
Yeah, for people who are lost, we're talking about a 40-millimeter grenade launcher.
Yeah.
Comes underneath AR platform, depending on where you are, or the old M79, my favorite, the pirate gun that you can saw the handle off of.
Yeah, I was so excited because the SEALs still have that.
Yeah, and I think H&K made like a standalone one now that's probably like carbon fiber and way less likely to blow up in your hand, but whatever.
Yeah. I hit a guy, a direct hit with a 203 that was hanging out of a window.
I can't imagine there'd be much left from that.
Well, it wasn't like he just it wasn't like he's, and I'm not glamorizing this, right? But it's not like he went in pieces. But when I hit him, I barely saw it, and then the other guys in the truck were like, "Bro, that's the ESPN shot of the year." It's interesting, you know, ESPN. I don't even play golf, right? But I was like, "What's the ESPN shot of the year?" But I basically slingshotted it between two trees as we were driving parallel down this gauntlet of like RPGs and gunfire on Route Apache. We came out of this old army outpost, and we just started getting smashed like a ball peen hammer on the metal parts of the truck. And I was the lead turret gunner, and there was a guy laying out in the road. And there was another guy holding up his vest. One of the guards, the Iraqi guards, you know, hired there.
Yeah,
he was holding up his vest. He had a slug in it. And I don't know why he was holding up his vest off of his body. It's one of those things you see in combat where you just can't explain it.
It probably made sense to him in the moment.
Yeah, it was weird, though. He was holding his vest up and showing me, and I'm like, and so I'm just like, where is it coming from? I asked him where the fire was coming from, and literally we're getting smashed. But, you know, you can't, it's not the movies. You don't know where it's coming from a lot of times. It's really confusing.
Especially in like the valleys of Afghanistan where it echoes off of both sides, and you'll spend 5 minutes trying to figure out where the fuck you're getting shot at.
You have no idea. Sometimes you could be standing right in front of it, or you go around here, now you're standing in front of it. And so when we came around that corner, we just started getting smashed. And when he pointed like that, I looked, I remained calm just like the belt sander incident. I got to remain calm, bro. And so I took a breath and I looked, and I just emptied full auto with the M4 into that area. Not even trying to hit him, just to throw something there, man.
Head down, yep.
And you could hear stuff coming in around. Hit my water bottle next to me, blew up. I thought I was hit because it was just hot water from the Baghdad sun. And as we're going along parallel to this building, I catch a guy, and he's leaning out with an AK. And when somebody's firing like full auto at you, or they're as fast as they can with an AK directly at your face, it's pretty surreal because you're just like, you don't have time to think of life and death. You're just like, all right. And so I wasn't really even aiming. I just kind of side shot like that with the 203, like dook, like that. And we were traveling.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's some geometry going on
There's
here.
some serious geometry that I didn't know anything about because I didn't finish school. So I'm like, what's up? You know, trigonometry. This is trigonometry.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I think you're correct. Actually, probably physics at that point.
Yeah. And so when I fired, you know, you've been in firefights, I'm sure, where you're just like, things happen and it's like in slow motion kind of.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not happening in slow motion, but high in sight. And so, but this 203 goes right in between two trees like a slingshot. And then it looped. It just hung in the air like this. It looped like that, and when it hit, I didn't realize it hit him.
Like contacted him.
Yeah. But I think it hit his AK because his AK was like this up in the air with smoke, like that, and definitely some pink mist there, but it wasn't like chunks of him. It just smashed him though, dead for sure. Gone.
Oh, for sure. You're not going to walk that one off.
You're not walking away on that.
What did so when you came out of school at 13, what did you do with your time between then and joining the military?
13, my mom tricked me. They knew I was wild, man.
Yeah.
I was like the honey badger in school, and I just didn't really pick up what the other kids were picking up. I just wasn't interested. Kind of similar to what you said. I wanted to do the military, but it was way too much time. Like I was 13.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
You
got
got
to kill
half a
some
decade.
years off. But I hated school. So my parents just tell the principal, I had the record detention hall days. I had like 99 days. I begged for 100 days just to make it 100. They wouldn't give it to me. And my parents finally said, look, this is just not working out for little Jimmy. And so we're going to take him out of school. And so at first I was just working like a slave on my dad's farm. And then my mom said, hey, Jimmy, we want to send you to a summer camp called Texas Bible Institute. And I was like, oh, okay, sounds cool, whatever. And so they send me there. They promise I'm only going for a week, right? After 6 days, I am ready to bounce out of there, They've got me cleaning 400 toilets a day. That's 100 toilets 4 times a day. That really happened because they had just stalls and stalls of just sections of toilets, and they would ship these inner city Houston kids from 9th Ward.
I was going to say, is this like a troubled youth camp that you got swindled into?
Yeah, but I'm the staff. Like, I'm the instructor, bro. And Christian-based, and they're shipping hundreds and hundreds of kids. And I can remember there was like feces on the wall and stuff, and I cleaned these toilets for a week. I was just done. And I got to where I could clean a toilet really fast, like 45 seconds, flushing it, and wiping it and flushing it in about 45 seconds. And I called my mom from a payphone. There's no cell phones or anything. And I'm in Austin, Texas in the heat of the summer, cleaning tons and tons of toilets every day. And I'm like, Mom, get me out of here.
Yeah,
and she
what
goes,
the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, get me out of here. I'm sorry. And my mom's like, son, I'm sorry, you're going to have to stay there. Why don't you just hang out for another week or so? And I'm like, Mom, don't do this to me. At about that time, a kid came up, and he's like, hey, get off the phone, like it's prison or something. So we get in a fight. I end up hanging up. I end up staying there for 9 months more. And until I got staph infection from cleaning toilets, and it was something that was necessary for me. I got my GED there. I kind of got my head on straight. Kind of got some of the wildness out of me.
Sounds like you still had some time though before you were able to enlist. What'd you do after that camp?
Oh yeah, we went from the camp to community college because I realized you had to get 17 credits. I think it was 17 or 18 credits from a community college along with your GED.
Okay.
So I had to get that. Yeah. So I had to get that. That's what you had to get to go to the Marines. So I was going to community college. By now I was like maybe 14. And I was going to community college. I was working on my dad's farm, and I was just killing off time because I wanted to go so bad. I had big dreams for the SEALs, but it was not in the cards yet, man. I was not physically mature enough. There's no way I could have made it at 18. And so, man, I had to study a lot. And I went to gymnastics, basket weaving, basically pottery, bowling to get a bunch of credits.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was going to school. So I got all that and was able to go in at a very early age, barely 17, man.
Wow. Well, I mean, hell, that's crazy. So your parents had to sign for you then too?
Parents had to sign for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine did the same when I was a junior. I entered through the delayed entry program.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that. Because it's like you got to wait till you're 18 anyway, So crazy. What do you think now, man, looking back of your operational career? What do you make of it? All the experiences that you've had. How do you think about it now when it's all in the rearview mirror?
I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it happened like it did, right? Getting out early of the SEALs was difficult, but I'm glad I did the route I did because it gave me a lot of experience, especially in the SEAL teams. I was a team leader early on. It just made sense to those around me. I knew some of the SEALs from Blackwater. I'm very proud of my experience, my time in, and what I did. But how I look at it now, I don't look at it as a negative in my life. I look at it as an ultra positive, and it helps with the self-talk. When I'm having a bit of down day, I'm like, hey, Jimmy, you've done a lot. Like, don't forget that. Don't diminish that. Don't linger into the imposter syndrome where you feel like, man, maybe I haven't, this is like, you've done a lot. You haven't done everything. But I'm humbled by my experiences because it showed me that I was not superhuman. And so there was some great experiences I got from that wherein I learned from it. I learned how to fight, and not in the physical sense, because there's a much deeper, greater meaning to fighting. Real fighting, man, is fighting injustices that happen in your life. Some that we cause personally. So fighting through circumstances, fighting through divorce, fighting through this, fighting through the mistakes we make. I was in a full-blown fight in the SEALs of my life because I was part of the notorious Nisour Square event as a team leader. And I had to live with this.
How did the Navy treat that? Because you were active duty and you had to go testify, right?
I was active duty, and I literally had to. The Nisour Square event happened, right? And everybody said, "Dude, it's over now. Your SEAL dream is over because not only are you getting older, listen, like think about it. How are they going to even let you in the teams?" Having been the team leader for Nisour Square. Well, I just went through the process, man. I took one day at a time, and I had to filter out a ton of negative, a lot of naysayers, a lot of people saying I couldn't do it, and I just one step at a time. And as I went along, the case was dismissed by a federal judge, Judge Urbina, in a 90-page dissertation about prosecutorial misconduct. And so the case was dismissed right when they were making a decision for me to go in. Because you know how you have to do waivers. You have to –
Oh, yeah.
You have to be pretty dang truthful going through the process. You have to, like, divulge all this information, the top secret clearance, going through that process.
Yeah.
And so I never had to lie, They asked me if the FBI ever talked to me. I said, no. I never talked to the FBI. They came to my parents' house asking for me, but I never talked to them, that kind of stuff. And so I threaded the needle, and the Navy didn't have a problem with it. They never had a problem with it until Obama was reelected. They drummed up the Biden for the Blackwater case again against them. And they gave me compulsory immunity order to come and testify. And I had refused to speak for years, refused. And so they didn't have anything on me to charge me. And so they gave me immunity. And when I came and testified, my command was okay with it. They were like, okay, go testify. In fact, I screened at one point, and that was one of their main reasons why they were like, I'm sorry, man, you can't move forward with this because you just have too much going on. You have to go testify again? Sorry, bro.
Yeah, they're going to want you to sort one before another.
Yeah, like
maybe handle that shit, and then we can talk about it later.
Yeah, and I understood that completely. Yeah. I was totally cool with that, and so I had to go. I kept having to leave sniper school. And then I'd come back and finish out, and it was just a pain in the ass. It was becoming a big pain because I was always having to leave to testify stuff. And the prosecution hated me after they gave me immunity. Like, I was their witness. Technically, when they give you immunity, whether or not you're testifying for them or against them, you're their witness. And so when I came in on the immunity, I just spoke my truth, Andy. I was there. I know what happened. I was there. And so when I spoke my truth, it was simply not compatible with their truth and having not been there. And so they really put a reticle on me after that, crosshairs. And even my lawyer, who was Monica Lewinsky's lawyer at the time, who was being paid $1,000 from Blackwater Insurance an hour, who was my lawyer for 10 years probably, he was like, Jimmy, they're going to come after you, man, if you don't play ball. If you don't play their game, they're going to come after you, and this is going to come all the way from the top. And it's interesting. After I testified in my uniform, they wanted to destroy me because I refused to compromise. And that's the battle I'm talking about. What I learned is to fight no matter what you're going through in life. Stick by your truth. You know, it may not be other people's truth. But if you know it's truth in your heart, true is true, no matter what. Mark Twain said a lie will travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. And that's the case. That was the case with me. I take full responsibility for my actions. And that's a heavy burden to live with, to make a call to go out in Nisour Square and then all these civilians die. That's not to diminish that. But that's what happens when you give a bunch of dudes machine guns, belt-fed weapons, and you get in a firefight in a super Walmart-like parking lot downtown Iraq.
War is not precise, man.
No, you have belt-fed machine guns going off, thousands and thousands of rounds, and you're gonna have a ton of damage go on. Was it? I can't say much about that, but was it like the movie Platoon, where you have one evil version of the platoon and one good side? Remember that? Mm-hmm. And then they kind of they're fighting against each other. That's kind of
they're fighting each other and the enemy.
Yeah, and that's how it was portrayed as my platoon. That it was a coup. There was a good side and there was a bad side, and that we just wanted to get revenge. Man, that couldn't be further from the truth, man. And often I found, Andy, that we're portrayed in the exact opposite way of who we really are. That doesn't negate from our responsibility to take complete responsibility for our actions, but often we'll be portrayed as someone who we're not. So I went over there to do right. It wasn't about the money for Blackwater. I always wanted to serve my country from the time I was little on that farm. Yeah. And so for me, I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to defend my guys. I wanted to save kids. You know, I'd give these little kids like candy on the streets, and I really cared about them. My heart was big. I felt terrible for these civilians and stuff that were hurt over there. But then all of a sudden you're portrayed as the biggest monster killer in the world, like on CNN News, on Fox, everywhere. And then when Obama got reelected, man, my world came crashing down because my lawyer said, hey, this is going to come all the way from the top, as in like Joe Biden top, like President Obama's vice president at the time was Biden. And he was, I later found out he was like basically, ordered to go after these Blackwater guards. And so, man, they called me one day at the command and just told me to come in. And I mean, I was sniper team leader, all this stuff, and really doing well in, really doing well in the teams. Went screen and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden they called me in and they're like, Jimmy, you have 10 days left in the Navy. Like, you have to leave in 10 days. And I thought it was a joke at first. And I said, sir, I'm not going nowhere. And he said, after the hell I've been through, brother, I wasn't going anywhere. And he says, no, you don't understand. This is like charging a machine gun nest. Because he knew I was a prior Marine. And I think he was playing off of that. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if it wasn't for Marines charging machine gun nests, me and you wouldn't even be standing here, speaking English to each other. And he's like, this is serious. What explosion.
You don't get to talk to me.
What the hell? And he said, you will be out of here in 10 days. And this is a guy I did barbecues with. It was so weird. And that was part of the betrayal that I felt, was that my own commander that I knew first name basis barbecues, STV small, could call me in and say, now, like, he didn't even know me. Based on an unlawful command order from Admiral Losey. And so they, Admiral Losey got a direct order from way above, just like my lawyer told me would happen. He told me all this would happen, but I was not going to compromise on my truth, even if it ruined my life, ruined my SEAL career, ruined my wife, all this stuff that was in a neck brace at the time. And so I basically told him, Andy, I'm not going anywhere. And I was in for the fight of my life, man. And I didn't go anywhere. I stayed. And it was hell. I mean, it was my version of hell.
Yeah.
Going from like your apex to just at the bottom of the barrel, looked at like you're a monster. And
How long after that meeting where you got 10 days left did you actually separate from service?
yeah, so 10 days after he said 10 days left, I walked by, I slapped him on his shoulder. You don't do that to commanders in the SEALs, by the way. And he startled him, and I said, "I'm still here, sir." And so I kept on putting in I wrote a letter a day to every senator, Armed Forces Committee, FBI, saying they, all this stuff, complaint, all this stuff. And then I launched my own investigations, represented myself. And after 2 long years, even hanging myself in a mental hospital, I was reinstated. And the admiral was basically had to leave because of unlawful command influence, they call it. After all these complaint letters, it finally broke the camel's back. You come in and swing as hard as you can at a tree for long enough, it's gonna fall.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time, and that's how I looked at it. I had to come in every day and take the biggest swing of my life at that tree, and it was hell, and it was hard, and but I didn't want that to happen to somebody else. That was my kind of fight.
Fuck, man.
So 2 years later, I was reinstated, and then I decided to get out.
Yeah, but at least that's your terms.
It was my terms. I was like, no, now it's
Yeah.
my time to get out, which, whatever, man.
How'd you get to the point where you wanted to hang yourself?
Man, like I said, eventually, after you file a complaint a day and after you go through, I even went in front of the kangaroo court, the admin separation board. The FBI flew down and bashed me in this thing. You lied. And I said, if I lied, you would have charged me with perjury. So you're lying about me lying. So you're committing the same crime. And so, but the 3 guys were designated from the admiral for the kangaroo court. And they said, Jimmy, sorry, no matter what you have here, evidence, which I had it all lined out that I didn't lie on my testimony, but I had to get it out, unseal it. No matter what, you have to leave. And so that was at the year mark, Andy. Yeah, but I had this Commander Parado, one of the baddest dudes ever on this planet, man, who I cannot believe he made the decision he did with me. But he took us forward. I appealed it to the commander. My last thing I could ever do, he calls me in on Christmas and reinstates me, man. But after that is when that admiral said, no, he's out. I said he's out. That's when I had to go to a mental hospital because I was done, man. I was limping around. I was physically injured, man, from that. It was physically injuring. I know people can understand this out there because
No, I get it for sure.
you get it.
Yeah.
I literally started walking with a limp, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
And so I went to the Balboa. So I checked myself in at the Emerald Coast Medical. Was placed in like a dungeon, man. A freaking dungeon. Like, I'm not even kidding you. A real dungeon. Like, it's an old children's hospital down there, the lower level. They called it ICU. We called it the dungeon because I was misbehaving, they said, which man, I hugged a guy that was crying because there was a lot of veterans, and he obviously had some serious PTSD. And I looked at the doctors and the staff as like kind of like witches, man. They were just disassociated from they just were being jerks. And so I hugged this guy, and they said, "Okay, that's it. You're going to go to the dungeon." And I was like, "For what?" And they were like, "Because they just didn't like me." And so I go to the dungeon, and then I get medevac from there. Medevac like in a jet. They have to do this transfer of custody to keep me in the hospital. I did a year in the mental hospitals in my fight against the Navy, and that was part of my fight. And at about an 8 months mark, the admiral sent his JAG lawyers in to the mental ward. I mean, there's crazy people in there. There's people who just lost their mind. There was a couple SEALs in there, too. We were doing burpees together every day, working out. My beard was out to here. I didn't care. Dude, my hair, I wish I had a picture for you. My hair was out to here like Einstein because it's like shaftless, they call it. It grows out. And so I look like a crazy wild man, but I didn't care anymore, man. And I remember the Admiral sent 2 of his guys in there into the mental hospital, and I was finger painting, like in there, and they said there's 2 guys that want to speak to you, and so I walked over to them, and I was in it, man, till death. I just didn't. I was in it to fight and to make a statement, and I was really messed up, and a man can only go through so much, right? And these 2 guys, I remember they said, Jimmy, sit down. And I said, I'll stand. And they said, well, we have a message for you. The Admiral would like to tell you a message. He wants to tell you that no matter how long you stay in here, you will never change the outcome. The day you come out of this place, he's kicking you out of the military. You're going to be detained if you refuse, and you're going to be kicked out. And they looked at me for a long time, and it was so awkward because I just stared at them, like with this crazy beard, crazy hair, hospital weird blue thing, finger paint on my face, and they're like, "Well, do you have anything to say?" And I said, they said, "Do you have anything to say to the Admiral? Like he wants a response." I said, "I got finger painting in 2 minutes, is that it?" And they just looked at me like, this guy is down. And so I walked out, and they were just kind of like, dang, this guy is not going to stop. And so to go back to your question, they walked out, and then they spoke to the doctors, and the doctors brought me in, and they said, Jimmy, we know you're faking it. We believe you are from the conversation we had with him. And they said, we're discharging you immediately. And I said, is that your final answer? And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm not going nowhere. Just like I always said. I always told you. And they looked at me and said, what does that mean? I said, well, you'll find out. And so I walked out from there. I stripped down naked on my way to my room. Just stripped down. Wasn't that uncommon to see in the mental hospital there. And walked in the back of the room, got a sheet and that I had already tied knots into because I was kind of planning on it anyways. And it's very difficult to hang yourself in a hospital like that in Balboa.
Probably by design.
It's very difficult. You have to plan, research, but you have nothing but time. I had nothing but time, days and days and days to think about this. And I was dead serious. And so I was going to make a statement. I was like, golly, they don't believe they're military servicemen. They don't believe they're military when they say they're going to kill themselves. You should take somebody super, super serious. And I do to this day. When somebody says it's over or talks like that, I'm like, man, let's talk, brother.
Yeah.
And so I knotted this sheet up, and I went immediately to the bathroom. And on my way there, I was thinking, man, why does it have to be like this? I wish it was different. And so I went in there, stuffed this sheet into this hole in the wall above the toilet. There was a hole in the wall, real small hole, and I stuffed these knots, the sheet with all these knots in it. Mm-hmm. And I knew I had very minimum time. And so I thought, man, God, I'm sorry. I remember apologizing to God. I said, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry for doing this. I hope I'm forgiven in the afterlife, And why has it got to be like this? So I got on the toilet, and I just launched myself off head first. And I woke up, and this nurse had her knee on my neck. And that hurt real bad. She had her knee on my neck, crushing my neck. And I was delirious. And I was like, dang, I just survived that. And they're trying to take this sheet off my neck. And it was obviously on there super tight, and they were freaking out, screaming. It really scared everybody. And I can remember the doctor, the same one that 5 minutes ago told me, we think you're faking. And now he's crying, and he was shaking and crying, and had my head and my neck stabilized, and it fractured my neck. And he was holding it, and he was like, I didn't think you would do that. Like, I said, I told you, like, you should have listened to me. Anyways, they did the scans. I had a fracture in my neck, still do. There's not really anything you could do about it. And that's when they said, Jimmy's staying here indefinitely, forever. And I told my wife after that, I called her in. I said, I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry I had to do all this. I love you with all my heart, but I've decided to stay here for life if I have to in this fight against this corruption. And so I'm willing to stay here for the rest of my life. And I was literally willing to stay there and it was hell in there. It was terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a picnic.
Especially when you want to live so bad and you didn't want your life to end like this. You wanted an awesome SEAL career. And man, and so I can remember sitting there shaking her head saying, okay, and I held her hand and that was it. And she left. And I stayed in there, man, doing burpees, doing push-ups, doing my painting. And not very long after that, those same two guys came in with a bunch of paperwork and said, hey, we're reinstating you in the Navy. And I said, okay. And they were in shock, you know.
Yeah. Fuck, man. That's a lot.
It's a lot to unpack, you know. And I mean, it sounds crazy when I say it now, but my determination was on another level, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we all have that when you really feel like you've been wronged in life. I really believe that that's a dangerous man. It's a very dangerous thing to try to take a man's freedoms away when he knows that it's wrong. And I think that's what fires people up inside. I think that's what makes people so angry at the situation now in America, how things are going in a way, is because they're just like, dude, you're systematically dismantling my freedoms. And when that happens, a man can only take so much, and you start to just get angry. And this was my fight, you know, because otherwise I was going to be kicked out on the streets. And for me, the SEALs was everything.
Yeah, I know how that feels, man. What do you want the rest of your life to look like? I mean, you obviously made it through all those things. We're sitting here together. You've moved on from the military. You survived the Blackwater experience, the Marine Corps time, the upbringing. Nobody fucking knows how much time we have left. But what do you want it to look like? Like, how do you view yourself now?
No, not yet. You're right. Nobody knows how much time we have left. You know, we don't know if tomorrow's going to come. My life, my purpose now is helping men, veterans, military, non-veterans, just men straight up. And I love helping all people, by the way. But I've got my warrior tribe now that I set up for, and it's all walks of life. Guys are congregating from all over now, part of it. And it's breaking chains of addictions through the power of God. Jesus literally met me, man. And I think I told you that before.
On the phone briefly, yeah, and I want to talk to you about that. But I guess first, what do you think your life would look like now if you hadn't have found your faith? Do you ever think about that? What path you would have probably taken?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was doing mercenary work, blasting cocaine in Colombia, Medellin, Nicaragua.
Was it good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Freaking make your whole body numb.
I was going to say it's probably right at the source. I don't know shit about cocaine, but in the movies that I've watched, it's generally
it's the source. it's the source. That's hence the reason why I went there. I was a man that didn't mess around.
Yeah.
But I also, man, was hanging out with some super hardcore outlaw biker gangs.
In Colombia.
No.
Okay. I was going to say, that's odd. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they had chapters
in San Diego.
Yeah.
And in Texas. Opposing ones, actually, for a while. At different periods of my life. And I can remember, a Banditos guy that I hung out with a lot. He was from the Banditos, and he said, Jimmy, man, he said, what are you doing with us? And I said, I think I want to join, man. I think I want to roll that way. Because, man, I didn't care anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was doing hardcore, crazy stuff, hanging out with them, and not part of them, but hanging out with them, which was enough. And especially with that SEAL background, for some reason they liked me. Part of their. I can remember him saying, "Man, hey, Jimmy," I remember what he kind of whispered. He said, "What are you doing here?" and he was hardcore. He had been hit by a semi truck at one point with his bike. He walked weird. But
It's not awesome.
He always carried a knife, and these guys don't mess around, man. They don't mess around. And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, I want to join, but I don't know how to ask, And he said, "Listen." He looked me dead in the eyes. He said, "Jimmy, the only guys that go here, man, ain't got nothing left to live for in their life." And he says, "I mean, Jimmy, you may think that you ain't got nothing to live for." He goes, "But these guys, you ain't got nothing else." He said, "So if that's really you, I'll pledge for you." And I thought, and the way he looked at me, the way he said it to me so ice cold, I said, "Man, I better rethink my life."
He was trying to give you a warning.
He was giving me a warning.
Yeah.
You sell your soul, for that kind of stuff. And so I still went on my journey after that of craziness and wildness. But I didn't join up or anything. I stayed kind of outside of that, perimeters. But I had multiple chances to do that. And saw some crazy stuff with them. But my life, without God intervening, would definitely, and as cliche as this sounds, but I don't know how else to say it, dead truth, I would be in prison for a long time, or I would be dead 100%. Because my path that I was traveling was it's no joking around. It's not like a weekend thing. It's a lifestyle, craziness, brutal, whatever goes. And I embrace that. And man,
how did you feel about it while you were living that lifestyle? Were you enjoying it? Did you have a sense of regret? Did you feel like you were where you belonged, or did you feel lost?
I felt like a lost ship in the night. I remember John McAfee when I was working with him. He called me over to his table, and he said, "Sit down, son." He barely knew me, but he knew people, and he looked me dead in the eyes. He said, "Son, you're just a lost ship in the night, in the dark abyss of the night. That's all you are, is a lost ship." And he said it so ice cold. And I said, I started shaking because he triggered me, because I knew he was right. And this is after my crazy life. I started hanging with him. And
arguably he was insane. So,
I would say genius madman. And a lot of people.
There's a fine line between genius madman and insane.
He was absolutely insane. And I mean, but he also was a genius in that it was like P.T. Barnum. He said, P.T. Barnum said, "The American people want to be fooled. I came here to fool them." And so John McAfee understood that people, they need sensationalism. And so he would do crazy things, say crazy things, act certain crazy ways. Yeah. But personally, from my time I knew him, I didn't see that really in him. I saw more of a calculated, strategic guy. That was my personal view. But anyways,
that's a more dangerous person.
Super dangerous.
The guy who can know and play the caricature when he needs to, but then behind the scenes is nothing like that. He knows what the people want, so he puts the fucking clown shoes on.
Yeah.
That's a calculated motherfucker. The guy who wears the clown shoes 24/7, you're like, "Oh, you're kind of a crazy idiot."
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude who knows and takes the mask on and off, that's the dangerous motherfucker.
Highly calculated.
Yeah.
In fact, one time a guy was living with us, and John McAfee would invite these people into our house, into this mansion, and people that seemed like the enemies. And I thought, John McAfee's way too smart for this. But John would stumble around him, drink hard, act like he was a fool around him. And one time I called John McAfee over because I couldn't take it anymore. Because I'm kind of face value guy. I'm like, dude, if you're a punk, you're a punk. If you're a clown, you're a clown. Like, don't try to deceive me. And I called John McAfee over and I said, "Sir, can we step outside?" He said, "Yeah." And then he said, "What do you want, son?" And I said, "Sir, I don't mean to disrespect you, but don't you see this guy is obviously plotting on you, plotting on us. He's probably going to steal. I mean, he's a weasel." And he said, "Son, are you done?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I allow people into my life, and then I allow them to slowly build a cage around themselves. And when they're finally done building that cage, I simply walk up, put the key in the door, lock it, and walk away." And that's what he did.
That's a dangerous motherfucker.
Dangerous. And I it kind of sent chills across me when he said that, because I realized this guy, he's too smart for his own good. So he was playing with life. He made a lot of money. He didn't care. He just plays with people. And the FBI told me that, by the way. I'm not a John McAfee worshiper by any means. He had a very dark past. I was with him in that time where he wasn't doing any shenanigans. He had just got back from Belize, and I was with him for a short time. But during that time, when I got arrested by the FBI, they set me down. I'll never forget. And they said, Jimmy, we realize that you don't know what we know about McAfee. And if you did, you would realize how evil he really was. And the way they looked at me, I didn't think they were bluffing.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that John McAfee was a master manipulator on multiple levels.
They're out there, man.
It's scary.
Some people can pull the marionette strings to an unbelievable fucking level and bend people to their will.
That's who he was.
Yeah, I've seen it. Dude, when you were feeling lost, or were you in that phase where you would describe as being lost, did you know you were lost? Were you looking for a direction, or were you just like, fuck it, I'm going to take every day one at a time?
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, I absolutely knew I was lost. I had made so much money at one point that I would look at a map, like let's say Colombia, and I would just kind of be like, this is where I'm going to go. And I would just kind of move my finger, okay, what does it say? Medellin. Oh, okay, let's go to Medellin. And I would live there for a while. And then I would just kind of do that weird stuff. I knew I was lost, and that's scary. But it was a runaway train. There was no end in sight. And I was just waiting to kind of like die off. I was kind of waiting to just expire at some point.
Fuck, man.
And so all of my actions, all of the time, were basically stay out of jail, try to stay out of jail, because that's not going to be fun in Colombia. That's not going to be fun in Thailand. That's not going to be fun in a communist country, Nicaragua. You're going to die.
No,
right?
That would not be awesome.
Terrible. So stay out of jail. Stay out of prison as long as you can, but just ride the highs of life. I didn't want to come down from the highs. If that was a beautiful girl giving me attention, and so be it for a short time. If that was doing a pile of cocaine with the Hells Angels, okay. Even at a cost of seeing things bad.
When the FBI finally rolled you up, was there almost a sense of relief that it was over to a degree?
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
You're like, thank fucking God.
I was like, thank God, because now I get to go to like a reprieve in a way, prison. Like I get to like, Mike Tyson said it the best. It's like the best time of his life, because every man needs some type of isolation, a cave, a prison, whatever that be, the mountains, Glacier National Park, somewhere where he's isolated and can finally get his thoughts together. And man, I look at it as a God thing. I was with my mom downtown Dallas. I was just going to be with her 2 more days before I had bought a flight to Bali, a non-extraditionary country, which is not really true. The FBI let me know that. They're like, you really thought that was non-extradition? I said, come on, guys.
Like, I Googled it one fucking time and clicked the top link.
Yeah, they're like, we know, here it is, where you Googled it and clicked it. They knew everything about me. They even had my Art of War book on the big projector saying that even your Art of War strategies are not going to work. So they were really smart and cunning. I kind of...
Well, it also means they were watching you for a while.
Yeah, I respected that. Yeah. That's why I was getting pulled out of the line every single time I went through customs, every country I went.
Listen, the listening devices are not going to get in there on their own.
No. I'm like, what is this? I mean,
I didn't know I had this electric razor.
Yeah, and then I was being followed in Colombia. At one time, I met a guy, and he left his phone with me. And then I ran into him 2 or 3 more times in Medellin, and he was obviously like, he followed me. One time, I J-hooked on him, and he was walking by. I said, "Hey, I thought you said you lived over there." Anyway, so my time was up, and the FBI wrangled me in. And so, but as I was with my mom in Dallas, I'm sitting there with her, and man, I'm this wild, crazy man. I got my tickets to Bali. I'm just on another journey to nowhere. And I can't even explain the feeling of being lost like that. You feel super unstable.
Do you feel empty?
I felt totally empty, 100% empty, like I was a walking dead man. You know, you don't have to be dead to be dead.
Yeah.
And so I was with my mom, and I was real sad because I knew I was trying to keep a smile on my face with my mom, and I knew that it was over. And so I had these tickets to Bali, and but all of a sudden, Andy, I swear, man, I got this peace and calm over my body, and I'm thinking, did I take a Xanax? I didn't. Did I take something before this? But I didn't. I hadn't taken anything, and I'm like, what the heck? I feel super at ease, and it was like preparing me for what was about to happen. And I walked to the car with her, and I said, and I literally, last things I said to my mom, I said, Mom, somebody must be praying for me because I feel like everything's going to be okay. When I said that, a black SUV, 15 FBI agents, Dallas SWAT team, they came down on me so hard because I had been running, and that SEAL background running, it's two big no-nos. And so they came down on me on full force. I felt like the guy was going to shoot me, like that's kind of thing. And they put me in handcuffs. And when they did that, I was relieved. A feeling of just total relief.
Yeah.
A lot of pain, but relief. Like, finally, I don't have to do this no more. I'm tired. I had to be wrangled in.
If you could go back leading up to that day, and I do want to talk to you about your faith and how that has changed the trajectory of your life, what changes would you make in your life? Or do you think you needed to make the mistakes that you did to be the man that you are today?
I had to make the mistakes that I made and somehow survive it in order for me to see where God had been all of my life. I had to go through those dark times to see where God was the entire time, because God's in every dark corner. I know that now, and I've been in some super dark places, and I wish that on nobody. And a lot of it was on my own accord. A lot of it was me angry at America, angry at the situation that happened to me in the SEALs, you know, just angry, broken hands, fights all the time. Little brother dies, best friend dies in the teams. You know, these good friends die, divorce, bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Now you're serving prison.
You ever think you need that darkness, though, to appreciate the light?
Yeah, I had to go through that darkness.
I don't think you can have just one. You
Yeah.
know? I think I know what you mean. Not the same shared experiences, but like for me, the lowest point of my life was my divorce. You want to talk like I would cake 100 gunfights every fucking day, bro. I'll take fucking plunging indirect fire with fucking mortars raining down on me, and overwhelming like numbers approaching over going through a fucking divorce again. You want to talk about gauging the depth of who you are as a person, questioning yourself, looking in the mirror, like what the fuck. Like, same thing. Best friend killed. Like, it's, but I can't give those experiences back. Not that anybody can, but like, if I was ever given the opportunity and somebody said to me, we can wipe your divorce in that 2-year time period of fucking slogging it out in the trenches, we can wipe that away if you want us to. I'd have to say no, because I need it. It changed who I was as a person. You know what I mean? So that those dark places that you have been in might make it capable for you to show light to people that they may never have even realized or found the opportunity to themselves.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Groveling on my carpet in my house I bought with my girl and losing it all, losing everything, the money, losing everything. I had to go through that. It's weird how we have to go through that.
Well, I bet it changes and has impacted the relationship with your wife now. I'm remarried. I've been remarried for coming up on 2 years. Holy,
it's different, huh?
dude, we're comparing like apples and bowling balls at this point. You know what I mean? Like it's not even the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my regrets is and I have a lot, but one of my regrets is that I had to go through that with my wife, or put her through with my ex, just to now get it right with this girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She has the chance to get it right with somebody else, though, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
coin flips to both sides, so she has that chance, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would, God, I'd rather get fucking ambushed than go through a divorce.
Bro, the only thing I couldn't go through again was the penis in the bell center.
I mean, I'm going to try to live my life without experiencing that.
Just don't wear Ranger panties and bell sand.
Or don't wear Ranger panties.
Just don't wear Ranger panties.
Option C, never put them on.
You know, yeah.
Fuck. So one of the first questions when we ever first talked, and I'm fascinated on your thoughts on this. So I have served with people who were devoutly religious, and the absolute another cohort of people, the absolute savages of the fucking world, who I don't know if they would fit into any religious cookie cutter for the way that they are. But I was asking you about when you found your faith, and I think if you remember the question I asked you, how come nobody ever finds faith when things are going great? It always seems like they're fighting, you know what I mean? And I have no judgment in that. It just seems anecdotally, you hear people, they find it in their worst moments as if they can't. And I'm not a religious person, and I'm actually jealous of people's ability to have that level of faith and belief. It's just never, it hasn't landed for me, and maybe it's not time, or whatever it may be. But I look at myself like there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. I can't blame or look for help, or it has to be an external source on a bad day. But like, why wouldn't it be the same external source on a good day? If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, well, I think when things are going amazing, when the sun's out, when you're making millions of dollars, let's say, and because I've worked with a couple billionaires, actual billionaires, and it seems to be the same thing. It's like I don't want to give anyone else credit for my amazingness. I don't want to acknowledge that there's a higher power, because I had to bust my ass to get here.
Somehow it would take away from them.
So I believe it takes away from they want to be the god of their world. And so why would they give up the power or anything to something that's higher than them? Why not be the highest one? And so this is my thoughts on that.
Yeah. And again, as a not religious person, it's like, let's say you are an uber successful person. Why couldn't you also think that would have altruistic hand from somebody above, or whatever your belief system is, just as bad, just as equal as the bad experiences that you have to fight your way through? It's like an uneven balance to me. It's a little bit weird.
Well, it's possible too that I had to hit rock bottom in order for Jesus to meet me. I did not find God. I want to make that very clear. I did not find Jesus. He finds the lost. I think that's where people get it wrong. And I had to come to a place of absolute, just mind-blowing brokenness and loss, to the point of hanging myself in a mental hospital, to the point of considering it on a daily basis, on killing myself. I had to come to this. And then when I was on house arrest, finally wrangled in, I had to do 1.5 years on house arrest just to go to prison for 15 years in the feds. In the feds, I mean, you talk about you're already lost. Now you're on house arrest, and now your only hope is going to the feds for 15 years. I couldn't even fathom that. But I wasn't willing to kill myself at that time anymore. I wasn't even thinking those thoughts. I was just like, it's over. And so now I know that I'm going to prison, according to my lawyer. Paid him $50,000 just to tell me, you're going to prison, Jimmy.
Sounds like a good deal.
100%. Yeah, I'm like, I paid you $50,000, and he cashed it right away. I was like, dang it.
Like, God damn it, dude. Isn't there a discount for that news?
Yeah. In fact, he said, Jimmy, if you put a 1 on a dice of 1,000 numbers, if there was a dice like that, he says, and you rolled it, that's your chances of not doing any time. He says, when they put this much time and effort in a guy like you, and they put a lot of man hours in me, then you're going to do a lot of time. And it's just the way the system is. And I said, so you're telling me there's a chance? And he's like, this is no laughing matter. And it wasn't a joking matter. And after he told me that, obviously, even in my fighting, I was done fighting. I was done fighting corruption, all this. I was like, it's pretty much over. And so I had to come to those terms. And so one night I cried out to God. I said, if you're real, Jesus, if you're real, then show up in my life. I know I'm going to prison. I'm not asking you to get me out of prison. That's not even possible. But if you're real, show up in my life, man. And I'm telling you, the very next day, the next morning, Operation Restore Warrior, these guys from them called me and said, Jimmy, we just had a spot open up. Do you want to come to this program? It's 3 or 4 days. It's a beautiful place. They have them all over. Mm-hmm. A retreat, a resort. Had no idea what this place was about. I had put my name in the slot a long time ago. It was weird. I had cried out at 3 a.m., and now it may be 7 or 8 a.m. Hours later, this guy calls me. I said, well, I'm on house arrest. He said, we're not judging you. And so I said, I'll give it a shot. I don't even think it would work, but I was always kind of bold like that. I said, okay. So we presented it to the Texas judge. He said, yeah, he's a veteran, SEAL. Let him go. He's got to wear R2-D2, the ankle bracelet. I had a big ankle bracelet on. And so I go there, and man, my life, Andy, was about to be turned upside down in a good way. And so I go there, and man, the hair was kind of standing up on my hands. I don't know, something was different about this place, and something supernatural. I don't know. And I wasn't this type of guy, by the way, but I had asked God, and I kind of forgot about that prayer. I just wanted out of the house. And so I go there, and we're sitting at a table like this, and the founder of the nonprofit, he's there. He happens to be there, Paul Lavelle, and he looks at me and he says, Jimmy, are you ready to meet Jesus? And I'm like, no.
Like, fuck, man, you got him in the next room? What are we talking about here?
What's up? I said, we're going to party or what? And I said, guys, I go, God, man, how can I escape this? Why is everybody always talking about God stuff? And I said, what do you mean? He says, by the end of this time here, in 3 days, you're going to have the plan of your life outlined for you, and Jesus is going to come and talk to you here. And I said, you have got to be freaking kidding me. I said, you guys don't really tell people that, do you? I mean, I come from a business background with McAfee, doing all these negotiations with Russian oligarchs. You don't tell me 100% anything. I'm walking out. I don't believe you. Yeah. He says, yeah, Jesus is going to meet you. And I laugh at him and I mock him to their face, Andy. I laugh at him. I said, man, you guys believe this stuff? And the other guys that are with me are like, and I said, obviously, yeah, I'm like crazy. And I'm like, obviously, you guys didn't see the ankle bracelet. I already know my future. I know you probably don't know about my what's going to happen to me, but you guys don't know my situations. It's over, man. It's over for me. And they're like, well, we hear a lot of guys kind of mock us like you did, laugh at us, but he goes, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that Jesus died and rose again on the third day? And I said, my mom and dad told me that. And so, yes, I do believe that. Not because my mom and dad told me, but I do believe in the story of Jesus. I believe that he was true. He's alive, historical evidence. And I believe that he actually did that. And they said, okay. And so I walk out of there. I start walking down this beautiful sound, the ocean with these reeds, this duck preserve. And I'm walking down this path with my big old ankle bracelet on, and I'm laughing at them on the outside, but inside, man, I was just done. And I walked down that road, man, and I get emotional, but I walked down that road and I said, God, if you show up here at this place while I'm on house arrest, facing all this time, if you show up like they're saying, because I don't want to get my hopes up anymore, man. I've got my hopes up too much, and it is such a freaking letdown when you get your hopes up about your princess that you met, and then you're divorcing her after 7 years. You get your hopes up about the SEALs, and then the trident lets you down, or you let the whatever. You know, you're depending on these person, place, things, and it just all crushes you and lets you down over and over and over. And I didn't want to dare put myself out there again and be crushed one last time. I said, I'm not asking you to save me from prison, but if you'll show up here, if you show up, I'll tell people about it, whether it be one person or a million, the rest of my life. The rest of my life, Andy. And nothing happened right there. He didn't show up.
A duck didn't fly by, like hit you right in the face.
Yeah. Literally just like blast me like Fabio on the roller coaster, you know? I saw that video the other day. And so I go inside, nothing happens. I'm feeling broken, by the way. My body hurts. Like I got like all kinds of stuff going on. And so the next day, 2 guys are praying for each of the members that are there. There's only 6 of us there. The guy goes in before me in this room with these 2 guys, which, by the way, they look like FBI or cops. So I'm already like skeptical. I'm like, if it's
fucking undercover cops,
2 guys look like cops or a belt center, I'm not going into that room.
That's fair.
You know, I'm not going in. And so this guy comes out after about an hour with these guys, and he's got snot coming down to his knees, just shambles. I'm like, bro, get yourself together, man. Like, suck it up. What are you doing? Like I'm making fun of him, you know? And he's like, you don't know, bro. You don't know. And I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, what'd they do in there to this guy? What did they do? And so this is happening to these guys that are with these couple. And so I'm the last guy to go. I got to sit through this, like death row. I'm sitting there with my ankle bracelet. And they call me in there. And so I go in there. I say, I ain't going to let these guys trip me up, man. There ain't nothing you can say to me that's going to make me like that. I promise you that. And so I go and I sit down. I'm saying, guys, I'm sorry. I just want to tell you this. You both look like cops. And I ain't no snitch. Yeah, I ain't no snitch, man. And they're like, hey, bro, calm down. I'm like, geez.
Take it easy.
Yeah. What's up? You know, like I'm already gone to prison or something. And they've got a notepad, and they say, Jimmy, okay, just tell us about your story. And it's very similar to what I'm doing right now, but the PG-13 version. I just kind of briefly do an overview. They as I'm walking them through this, one of the guys looks me dead in the eyes. His name is Daniel. Later became friends with him. He said, Jimmy, stop right there. You skipped over a very important part of your story. And I said, nope, no, I didn't. And he said, yes, you did. Dead in the eyes. I said, no, I didn't. I just said, no, I didn't. And he goes, you skipped over a part where you were in this house and with a nickname. And he called it by the nickname, the house that I was in a very, very dark period of my life. And I immediately stood up, and I said, how'd you know that, bro? How'd you know that? And I said, just tell me how you know that. It made me scared. It wasn't like a psychic. You go in.
Yeah, it rattled you.
Yeah, it rattled me. If I started telling you, details about a time where nobody really knows about, but maybe a couple select people that there's no ties. I said, how did you know that? They said, well, this is what we do here. They said, please sit down. And I said, please. They said, please sit down. And I said, no, just like I always did. No, I ain't sitting down. Just like with the Jaguars. No, this is part of my survival. I block off. I stand up.
If they would have told you to stand up, would you have sat down?
Yeah. yeah. Stand up. No, I'm sitting.
But I'm good.
No,
I'm gonna say.
No, I'm sitting down now. All right, go ahead. And so I said, no, I'm good. I said, but I'm a fragile man, dude. And fragile men do really effed up stuff, wacky stuff, like crazy. And they said, well, calm down and just have a seat, and we're going to tell you some more. And Daniel, the guy that told me the nickname of this house, looks over at his buddy, the other guy, and says, should I continue? And he goes, go ahead. And he looks at me and he goes, you were at this house called the Love Shack. and it was actually called the Love Boat, but my nickname for it was the Love Shack. You see how detailed this is and deep? So I'm like already like on my. By the way, they only have my first name. They don't. The recruiter has your first and last name. That's how they get you in. They pass your first name only off to these gentlemen, and they pray for you for about 2 weeks before you ever get there. That's the truth. I didn't know any of this. Okay, so they're praying for you. They're asking God for a download about you. And so I said, okay, go ahead. Tell me if you know so much about my life that I'm not going to say nothing. Tell me. Tell me what you know. And he says, well, you were at this place called the Love Shack. It's a large house overlooking a sound. And when you walk through the door, there's a jacuzzi, a massive jacuzzi on the right side. And then you walk up the stairs, and there's a screen door, and there's another door. And then when you walk in, there's an armory for guns. It's a gray metal door, but it's covered by a cherry wood door. He goes to extreme detail. And the only thing that I can say periodically, because I'm so in shock and so intrigued, I just keep saying, tell me more. I'm like, tell me more. And I'm mad. I'm shaking because I can't. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's a reality show or maybe I'm dreaming now. I'm back on house arrest. I'm not even there because it's so surreal, so personal. Look at me dead in his eyes. And he goes, and then there's an elevator there's an elevator in this house. It's a 3-story house. It's covered by another fake door, the beautiful cherry wooden doors. And I said, tell me more. And he says, you walk up the stairs into the second floor, and all their rooms have numbers above them. He goes, like grid coordinates. I said, Latin longs, like as if to correct him. And he says, Latin longs. And I said, tell me more. He says, well, there's on the third deck, there's a massive ship steering wheel. A massive ship steering. And I'm just blown away. That was where my office was. And I had a big ship steering wheel there, a real one that you could do this, a massive one. And it overlooked a sound, he said, where Blackbeard used to evade the British man of warships in the shallow waters in Ocracoke. Beautiful place. And boats used to pull up there, he said. And man, I just, the only thing I could say one last time, I said, because I was so mad inside, I was so confused. I said, tell me more. Tell me more. I yelled it out loud. Like, if you know so much about me, tell me more. And he looked at me, and the last thing he had to say, he said, there was a path you used to walk down by yourself behind the house. And I get choked up, man. Because it was one of the darkest times of my life. And I would walk behind the house in this path near the sound where all these reeds were real high. You couldn't really tell where the path was. And on these walks at night, I can remember the stars seemed like you could pull them out of the air. They were so low and so crystal clear in Ocracoke there in the night sky. And I can remember just looking at the stars thinking, how could there not be a God? How could there not be something divine and supernatural out there? But I want to feel you. I want to feel something. I don't want to live this life like this. I'm desperate. And I can remember thinking that along this path. And when he said that there was a path he used to walk down, dude, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that God, that Jesus was walking with me. It saw everything. It was in every dark corner of my life. And this might be dramatic, but if you've been there, you know how dark it can be. If you've been on the come downs from drugs, if you've been wrapped in those chains, and you've been down that violent road, and have so many regrets, it's so many effed up things that happen to you in your life, you realize how low it can be. And at that point, I bawled worse than this, and was nothing like that guy I made fun of. It was worse. I had snot coming down, drooling.
Did he at least make fun of you after?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
They were making fun of me, man. And sorry, man.
Dude, it's nothing to be sorry for.
It crumbled me in that seat.
What year was that?
It was 2021.
So this is relatively recent. That's like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, June 28. It was about it was June 2021 or 2020, but it was June 28. June 28. And he also, bro, to top it off, I'm sitting there bawling like a baby because there's nothing else I could say. No words would leave out of my mouth. I couldn't say like, tell me more. It was just like,
yeah.
Anything else? No. And so I remember before I walked in the room, my left shoulder was in so much pain. And I was thinking, man, how could there be a God? Like, how can you get any kind of spiritual restitution or redemption like they're talking when you're in so much pain? And I think it happened sometime in the SEALs, obviously, or in military service, just sheer pain, like numbness, and my arm would go numb. And when I was crying like that, this same guy, Jordan, the other guy, he said, and you have pain in your left shoulder, right? And I just looked at him, and at that point, I just was like shaking my head, bawling like a baby. And he said, "Well, we'd like to pray for you and take that away." And they leaned over, touched my shoulder, prayed a real simple prayer, and the pain just left me. And I remember I walked out of there like I dropped off 2 sea bags of bricks, man, that I've been carrying around for years.
I bet.
And my life was radically changed. And the same 2 guys, I asked, what happened? What was going through your mind when you were getting this download like a movie? He says, man, all I know is Jesus told me to keep on answering your questions until you believed. Until you believed. Answer him. Continue answering him until Jimmy believes. And that's the last question I would ever dare to ask. I was terrified to ask another one. I walked out there a new man, and as I was leaving Operation Restore Warrior after that 3 days, God literally told me I was going to be a lighthouse unto his people. And so it fulfilled the prophecy the guy had told me originally, the owner, when I first came in there only a couple days before. He says, you're going to know exactly what you're going to do, and Jesus is going to speak to you here. So I knew I was going to be a lighthouse. I thought, well, I'll just be a lighthouse, the best lighthouse in the world, in prison for 15 years. You know?
Captive audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be a preacher in prison. You know, what's up, guys? Yeah. Boom, you know? And so I'm walking out, and the other guy that prayed for me, he says, hey, Jimmy, I just want to let you know, I saw like a chessboard in the sky in a vision. He says, and your case is going to get dismissed. I just want to let you know that. It's checkmate. He said, checkmate. And I said, what's up? Checkmate? What does that mean? They're like, oh, my God. It means like you won or whatever. Whatever. So I'm like, okay, I believe the shoulder because I don't feel any more pain. I believe in the whatever happened in there because they literally in detail told me the blueprints of the house I was in this dark time, the path. But I don't believe in the prison thing that it's going to get dismissed because my lawyer, a man who has a lot of experience.
That you paid $50,000 to tell you it's not going anywhere.
I want that money back, by the way. How do I get that money back?
You are definitely not getting it back.
You're right, dude. That's a lofty dream.
You're definitely not getting it back.
That's a lofty dream. And so what happened, I go home. My lawyer calls me. He's probably in Tahiti because of my $50,000.
Totally.
He's buying drinks. So he calls me and he says, Jimmy, are you sitting down? I said, what's up? And he said, checkmate. And I said, checkmate. I said, why you say checkmate? Because I remember those guys telling me checkmate. He says, it doesn't matter. He says, your case is getting dismissed. He said, Jimmy, I just want to let you know this. Out of all my time as a lawyer, as a prosecutor for the DOJ, and then turned defense lawyer later on, very successful career there in Dallas, Texas, for cryptocurrency and all that stuff. He says, I've never seen this before. He says, your case is getting dismissed. he said, say a prayer for me, will you? And I'm like, give me my 50,000 back. No,
Yeah.
but you know,
Dear God, please give me my
Yeah.
50K.
help him to understand that he needs to give me my 50K back. And I need that money right now. Yeah. And so they dismiss the case. I get let off house arrest, man. And my life has changed after that. Doesn't mean I haven't gone through hard times and or rocky things in the last 3 years, but definitely am changed, man. And my thing is, Andy, is if God can do that for me, like this guy right here, he can do it for anybody out there. And one thing they told me at Operation Restore Warrior that I thought was interesting is they said the only way for this to work for you is that you have to crack open your heart this much, he said. He says, if you don't crack open your heart this much, then it is likely that nothing will happen here. And so I remember being receptive to that, and I cracked that heart open a little bit, and man, his love poured into my life, healed me, set me free, and I became a lighthouse to his people. That's for sure. For the lost ships, because it takes one to know one.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. What do you want your legacy in life to be now?
I want to help as many people as possible. I want to fulfill the vow that I made. I made a vow to God. I don't think you're supposed to make vows to God, because it's a high price to pay. But I said I would speak about what Jesus did for me, whether it be one person or a million, the rest of my life. And so I want to be able to, when I die, have fulfilled that vow, having done my very best to speak about what he did for me. And my prayer is that I can articulate that to people, that I have the boldness and or the ability to tell the story in front of the right audiences, in front of the right people, whether that be one person on the street or an audience.
Would you rather be known for the people you killed or the people you saved?
The people that God saved, using me as just an empty vessel, man.
Yeah, at the end of the day, for me, I'd so much rather be known for helping somebody than the destruction that we were largely taught and was our job.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard.
No.
Rebuilding yourself and things has been a lot harder for me than destroying stuff. That shit's easy.
Destroying is
Especially with golden eggs. I mean, like, come on.
golden eggs can blast you.
Fucking belt-fed machine guns.
Isn't it crazy how much damage that human beings are, man's inhumanity to man.
It's easier than building people up. And I don't know why it's like that.
Yeah. Just a couple words can ruin a solid relationship.
Oh, for sure.
I remember I came at you uncharacteristically for me now. A little bit of my old self showed up. I came after you, unwarranted. You're able to have that.
You were warranted, and what it caused me to do was think. The more that you and I communicated, the more we started finding our way towards the middle ground pretty fucking quick. Like
real
within
quick.
A few minutes. Yeah, it's like
I was hot at first, but
you should have been. Like I said, the apology that I put out was legitimate and heartfelt. Like, I'm not fucking perfect. Sometimes I get out in front of over my skis, you know, and sometimes you're just like, somebody shotguns you and you're like, blah. Like,
yeah,
like,
I applaud you for that, brother. I really do. I think it's so rare that men. I mean, we could have became lifelong enemies over nothing.
Totally.
And would it have mattered? Probably not. But it would have been.
It would have been easier to become lifelong enemies, though, than to find ourselves here sitting at this fucking table.
Super easy.
Yeah.
And I was more willing to go down that route even after my crazy experiences of God forgiving me. I mean, I have no room to judge anybody or anything. But you really were a real man, better man. And when you did that, that's a message for people to heal. brothers that I hear people like that have long-term, awesome brotherhood relationships in the SEALs, and then they break up over something so stupid and for life. I mean, 30-year friendship down the commode.
Over pride or ego? Like, fucking come on. Commode. Great naval term.
Over like a $5,000 contract. Yeah.
Fuck, man. Dude, that is a wild story, brother.
Yeah.
What do you spend your time doing now?
I have my Mighty Warrior tribe. I spent my lifeblood into this tribe. I designed it. I came up with this, I think, through the power of God. And it's a place where men are congregating all around the world, around the nation, and I would say world now, and coming together, all walks of life, to break chains of addiction, to find that reigniting that purpose in their life and that fire that they once had. And I help them do that. And do 3 calls a week. It's the most exciting thing I do a week. I bring that fire with that experience, and I also allow the group to speak into each other. And we've had literally life-changing things happen in this group. I
bet it fills your cup too.
It fills my cup. There's really, it's hard to do anything else in the week, but it's super important for me to do it. And it's been pretty amazing, you know.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Where can people find it if they're interested and they want to get involved in that?
Yeah, I would highly suggest that if there's men out there that are going through similar things that I spoke about today, to try it out for 30 days, go to my Mighty Warrior 2023 on Instagram.
But it's 2024 now.
That's the problem. I went to change it, and they're like,
"Oh, it'll fuck everything up if you do."
Oh yeah, I didn't know that it would mess up everything.
We're
So I'm
such
like,
idiots on that stuff. We're late adopters, man.
oh, the technology piece for me has been so difficult. I'm just like, man,
Fuck.
now I got an awesome team behind me. But yeah, it's been rough. It's like John McAfee created the McAfee antivirus, probably created the virus. But
Of course.
But he couldn't put a DVD in the DVD player.
Some of the smartest people I know can fucking barely get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
They can solve most of the world's problems, but can't find their fucking left and right shoe.
It's true.
Yeah.
McAfee would wear 2 left shoes, and he'd fall down, break a rib. I mean, down a hill. This is a true story. Literally wore different shoes. Weird.
Yeah. I think they exist on like a different plane. Like they're thinking about like hypothetical physics.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I don't give a fuck what piece of material is underneath my foot. I just need to get to this supercomputer so I can change the fucking world.
Yeah.
Or write the virus to create the antivirus software.
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid business plan, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking brilliant. And then you act like you can't find your way around, so people have to shove for you and
fucking
baby you.
Master marionette player. Mm-hmm. Bro, we've been at it for 3.5 hours.
God, that's the length of my podcast. I'm sorry, man.
No, I love it.
Yeah, it's been great.
But I also want you to go and enjoy some of Montana. I would fucking come with you, but I'm going to go watch my son compete in a jiu-jitsu
awesome,
competition,
man.
which he just does. He's just 4-stripe white belt. Truly doesn't give a fuck, which is beautiful because he's like, yeah, I lost, whatever. I'm like, okay.
Wow, that's great though, right? Or
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good thing or bad, but it's kind of like,
Men need to feel physical violence. They need to understand what is possible from another human being because it'll prevent you from fighting. It's the people that I know who have never been in a fight who are the ones that want to talk about it the most. I'm like, okay.
yeah,
I don't think you understand what's possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, I go, my wife is a black belt. She's actually there coaching now. And like I go train jiu-jitsu like 5 days a week. And I'm the last person that wants to fight anymore. I'm like, I'm just so.
Yeah, it's kind of smokes you, you know. That's
Also,
why
you can win a fight and end up in the ambulance next to the dude that you just fucking won the fight with. You know what I mean? Like, people forget that aspect. It's not like the movies where the hero walks off into the sunset.
No. It's not like you come out of there all like, yeah. Like
Sometimes
Rocky.
you're in the other ambulance.
You wake up next to him in the hospital.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, let's set up that fight with Sean Strickland real quick.
I think I know.
Bare knuckle fighting.
I think I know people who
I'm heavier
know
than
him. Yeah, we are bigger than him.
Bigger than you're a big guy. I didn't realize how you're pretty muscled up, dude. Pretty and tall
Fucking
too.
Smith and Wesson, dude.
Dang man, guns like
You're making me look tiny. Fuck, I
Guns.
need to hit the gym.
No, you look great, man.
Dude.
You're tall too.
6 foot even.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Closing thoughts, man. Close us out, Jimmy.
Don't doubt yourself in this world. There's so many. There's a phenomenon called pluralistic ignorance, where the majority of people out there privately have a lot of self-doubt, but think that they're the only one out there having these doubts.
Yep.
So therefore, nobody ever is able to voice how they really feel.
Because they're ashamed because they think they're going through it alone.
Yeah, and you're not alone out there. You're not alone, and I'm just super stoked to have shared this story with you. And be strong, stay courageous if you're out there. Go with all your heart. You don't have a destiny if you don't believe in one. So all my love, everybody.
And for the love of God, keep your dick away from belt sanders.
Where are the Ranger panties and belts in?